Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance in person. However, councillors and members of the public may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. If you have submitted a comment request, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair may also ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic. And at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. Individuals will be allotted 5 minutes to speak or 10 minutes for a group as per our procedure bylaw. If the meeting is recessed, callers will be put on hold until the meeting reconvenes, with the exception at noon where callers will be asked to call back in. This helps with call quality. Please note this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We also ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the MGA Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. I just want to check if Councillor Kester is participating remotely. Okay. We have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or changes? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I had a request a couple days ago I'd like to add to the meeting from Lyalta Community Hall, request for services.
We'll add that under 2.47.
Thank you.
Any other additions or changes? Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Also move.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question.
Sorry.
It's all good. Just for the public, we recently moved to a digital voting system, and so there's a little bit of a learning curve for all of us. And just remembering to be logged in and on the right meeting. If it's not popping up for anybody, if you just want to hit that like refresh circle. Did yours?
Yeah, mine went here. I'll add things up to the right meeting.
Motion is carried. We had the minutes from our regular council meeting of October 3rd circulated. Did anybody see any errors or omissions? A motion to approve is presented.
I'll move that we approve the October 3rd, 2023 Wheatland County Regular Council meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 2.1. I'll move that the process for the Wheatland County Council meeting, as it pertains to the scheduled public hearings, will be as follows. When a public hearing is mandated by the Municipal Government Act for a proposed bylaw or resolution, Wheatland County Council will hold the public hearing either prior to the first or second reading of the proposed bylaw. After the public hearing, the council meeting will proceed with the first reading, if required, and consideration for further readings of the bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. further moved that this process will be undertaken with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of a council meeting before and after each public hearing. And can administration please verify that notice of the public hearing was circulated in accordance with the MGA?
Yes.
Thank you. And does any member of the public have an objection to any councillor sitting on council for the public hearing? And were there any written submissions that were not included in the package that were submitted prior to the deadline?
No.
Okay. So in terms of process, we'll start with our staff doing a presentation regarding the application. Then we'll open the floor to the applicant to present. Then there will be an opportunity for persons in support of the application to present. There will then be an opportunity for persons with concerns or who are opposed to the application to speak. And then the applicant will be given an opportunity to address the comments that were presented or submitted in writing. And then finally, our staff will have an opportunity for any final comments. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Jessica Russell with Planning and Development Services, presenting bylaw 2023-22, which proposes to amend Appendix A of Direct Control District 7 to redesignate a portion of the land in Cell 9, Future Residential Type 1, to Cell 1, Residential Type 1. At a special council meeting held on September 12, 2023, Council moved to schedule the public hearing for bylaw 2023-22 for October 17, 2023, prior to first reading of the bylaw. This is a change in the current process where Council considers first reading at a separate meeting prior to the public hearing. Holding the public hearing prior to first reading of a bylaw is permitted in accordance with the Municipal Government Act and the county's procedure bylaw 2023-003. The lands are located within the Lakes of Mirfield, immediately southwest of the intersection of Range Road 264 and Township Road 252. The lands are designated DC7, which contains 9 cells, allowing a range of uses, including commercial, recreational, residential, and future development areas. This application proposes to update the cells that are available for development within the Lakes of Mirfield. Subdivision approval for phases 1 and 2 were granted in 2006 and 2007, respectively. With the development of phase 1 nearing completion, development of phase 2 may now proceed. Approval of this bylaw will redesignate the phase 2 lands from Cell 9, Future Residential, indicated in the light blue on the map, to Cell 1, Residential Type 1, indicated in dark blue, through the amendment of Appendix A to the DC7 district. No textual amendments are required. Schedule B of the bylaw provides the new development cell map for DC7. All lands indicated in blue as Cell 1 would be available for further development. The application has been assessed in accordance with the applicable statutory policy, particularly the Lakes of Mirfield Area Structure Plan. Approval of this bylaw would allow for the continued development of the lands as established in the ASP. As such, administration recommends approval as per the motions provided. Council may note that the motions have changed from previous applications. Namely, all 3 bylaw readings are present in the motion. Typically, Council considers first reading at a separate meeting, then second and third readings. However, all 3 readings may be considered at the same meeting if Council unanimously agrees to do so. This is permitted in accordance with the Municipal Government Act and the county's procedure bylaw. Administration will bring a report to an upcoming committee of the whole meeting for the committee to discuss and consider what applications would benefit from this process change. This concludes the presentation of bylaw 2023-22, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I probably don't need to ask if the applicant needs to speak. Are there any persons in support of the application who would like to speak? And we'll just ask if there's anybody who would like to speak. We'll ask you to come to the podium and we'll make sure the red light's on and we'll just have you state your name. Let's ask one more time in case we have anybody online who would like to speak in support of the application. I'll now open the floor to anybody who may have concerns or who is opposed to the application. Hearing none, does administration have any final comments? Thank you. With that, we will close the public hearing for bylaw 2023-22. Council's wishes.
I'll make the motion that council move the first reading of bylaw 2023-22 to amend Appendix A of the Direct Control District 7 Development Cells Map to redesignate a portion of the lands from Cell 9 Future Residential Type 1 Development to Cell 1 Residential Type 1 as shown on the attached Schedule A, forming part of this bylaw, not party of this bylaw.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Council's wishes.
Council moves second reading of bylaw 2023-22 as shown on the attached Schedule A, forming part of this bylaw. Got me again. Forming part of this bylaw.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried.
I'll move that council grant permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2023-22.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions? I'll call the question. Motion is carried unanimously.
I'll move third reading of bylaw 2023-22 as shown on attached Schedule A, forming part of this bylaw.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Thank you, everybody. We'll move to agenda item 2.12.
Through the just open.
My apologies. I will call the public hearing to order. Welcome, everybody. Does any member of the public have an objection to any councillor sitting on council for this public hearing? And can administration please confirm that circulation was conducted as per the MGA?
To council, yes, I can.
Thank you. And were there any written submissions that were received prior to the deadline that were not included in the package?
Through the read to council, yes, there was, and we have distributed it, and I can read it into the record if council so chooses.
I think that would be good for consistency, and if it's possible, just to show it on the screen as well.
Okay. Good morning, Council. Sherry Bars with administration to present bylaw 2023-23 for consideration of second and third readings. And I'll read the late submission from Mark Rawlick received on October 16th, 2023. Hello, Taylor. My apologies for the late email. We live on an acreage near the requested redesignation. Our address is redacted. We are opposed to the request for 14 permanent camping sites on the grounds that the request could increase the density of the area with the possibility of some of the campsites having permanent residents and also increase the traffic with temporary campers. There's ample camping availability near Strathmore and in Carsland to support the proposal. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Mark Rawlick.
Thank you.
Bylaw 2023-23 proposes to redesignate the subject lands from Agricultural General District to Rural Business District in order to facilitate the development of a 200-person capacity wedding and entertainment venue that proposes to include a short-term overnight campground for patrons of the venue and a bed and breakfast. The subject lands, as shown on the location map found on page 30 of the agenda package, are located approximately 5 kilometers from the south of the town of Strathmore, 1.6 kilometers west of Highway 817, and immediately west of Range Road 253. The site is bounded by the Western Irrigation District Canal to the north and east, with agricultural lands to the southwest. Land use in the immediate vicinity of the subject lands is predominantly agricultural, with country residential development planned within approved area structure plans located approximately 1 kilometer from the site. The site is developed with a dwelling, detached garage, and a 100 by 40 foot concrete pad and an outdoor patio space that are used for outdoor events and entertaining. The lands produce a small yield of alfalfa yearly and are used as pasture land for horses. The applicants have provided a number of documents in support of their application, which included a transportation impact assessment, a business plan outlining their operations, and a dust screening and noise mitigation plan. Access to the site is provided via an existing approach from Range Road 253. The driveway that services the parcel crosses an extension of the canal, and as a result, the WID and the landowner have entered into an access easement agreement for the benefit of the landowner. The transportation impact assessment prepared for the proposed development indicates that the traffic generated by a 200-person maximum capacity events would not have a significant impact on the operation of surrounding roadways. The transportation impact assessment notes that the geometry could be improved at the intersection of Range Road 253 and Range Road 240 and at the existing site access from Range Road 253. However, these are existing components of the transportation network, and the additional traffic generated by the proposed development does not warrant upgrades. Vehicles can safely navigate the intersections, and there are no issues with sight lines that need to be mitigated. The transportation impact assessment was reviewed by the county's engineers, and no technical concerns have been identified with regard to servicing or access to the lands. The county's transportation department has recommended that dust suppression on Range Road 253 between Township Road 240 and Township Road 234 be required as a condition of a future development permit as a result of the added traffic traveling to and from the site. The applicant's site plan, as shown on page 33, illustrates how existing and proposed landscaping will be used to create visual barriers for adjacent properties. In addition to landscape screening, the subject land benefits from the configuration of the Western Irrigation District canals immediately to the north and east. The WID's right-of-way provides an additional 50-meter buffer between neighboring lands. The applicant has indicated that a decibel reader will be used during events to monitor sound levels. Water and wastewater servicing are provided by means of a private well and sewage treatment systems. Bottled water will be available to guests attending the events on site. Portable washrooms will be provided and managed by a third-party service provider. The proposal aligns with relevant statutory and non-statutory policy and will allow the applicant to expand and diversify development on the property. The proposal aligns with the economic guiding principles and commercial and industrial objectives and policies of the Municipal Development Plan, which encourages the expansion and diversification of the county's commercial base and promotes the growth and diversification of employment opportunities provided by local, small, and home-based businesses. There are no technical concerns with servicing or access to the lands. Therefore, administration recommends that council approve bylaw 2023-23. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? And would the applicant like to present? If you can just come to the podium and state your name, please.
Package. The applicant did have a supplemental package, just to supplemental documents to circulate to council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shanna. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Wheatland County staff and council members and community members. We are Aaron and Carrie Young, and we're thankful for you to have us today. And we're just going to share a little bit about us. But first of all, I'm a little not totally surprised of this amazing support that we have. So I just want to say thank you. These are the people that have showed up for us and made us stronger so that we could be here. So I just want to say thank you guys. Appreciate you so much. I'm going to read this. I'm not very much, I'm usually public speaking without notes, so bear with me. We purchased our home on nearly 30 acres 3 years ago this month. 6 months later, after overwhelming requests from friends and family and strangers, we were asked to host weddings, family reunions, and even fundraising events from the local town folks. We decided to see what we could do to create a space for people to gather, and that is why we call the acreage the Gathering Ranch. Aaron and I connect with people. We build relationships everywhere we go. That's just who we are. I'm a children's author, a speaker, and an advocate for children and families. Community is the core of my heart. I believe this shows in everything that I do. I have a dream. Aaron brings the dream to life. Aaron is above par when it comes to making sure the details are covered. He doesn't cut corners. I think we have people here to show for you. I believe we are known for these attributes, and that makes us a solid team going forward. I joined the Chamber of Commerce as a director this year. In addition to promoting small business, I'm hoping to foster some great relationships in the business community. Last week, I even volunteered to speak for our local chapter of the Girl Guides, and my heart is still full. I've included a copy of my presentation in the package shared with you today. We have added several letters of supports from surrounding neighbors, and there were a few concerns, so Aaron and I hosted open houses for the neighbors and on 3 separate occasions to address these concerns. The 2 families with the most concerns did not attend any of our open houses. Aaron and I made several attempts to contact the Romans family, hoping to discuss some of our issues. Our calls were never returned. Many of their written accusations are simply not true. We are willing to address their concerns, but feel we need additional details in order to truly understand the issues presented. We would like to move forward today to present our strategies for solving some of the issues we've discussed with Wheatland County and our neighbors. So I'm just going to go through these. Traffic. We've met with Robert Seabrook, owner of Wheatland Taxi. He can provide 2 shuttles on event days. This will mitigate issues related to parking, traffic, and dust. Using a shuttle service will also prevent people from drinking and driving. As to garbage on the road, we've not really noticed any at this time. And I also want to make note, we recently met Robert. He came to our house and shared the ideas of his business growth, but I'll leave that with him. Noise. The DJ and the on-site event manager that we will hire will have a decibel reader application. So this is something that's on your phones. I'm technically challenged, so I just want to share this. These are decibel readers and they come on your phones. And so we would have our staff carry these phones, carry the phones, and the DJ will have that same decibel reading ability. I believe 85 is the average place where an event carries that decibel meter, and we will carry ours at 85. And the music will be turned down at 10:30 p.m. and then off by midnight. And we didn't write this in here, but we discussed it. I think 80 is a good number. We've tested this with our neighbors and actually gone and sat down and said, okay, did you hear anything? So that 80 was a good number, and that's where we want to be with the Gathering Ranch. We've also planted over 150 trees around the perimeter of the property. We see these will act as a sound barrier, and I want to be straight up with you guys. The trees right now are this big, and some are a little bit taller than me. And then we've got some aspens that are about 6 feet tall. No, about 10 feet tall. So it'll take some time for those sound barriers. So if people do call and complain, we just want to put that out there. We've made the effort, but time will make those grow as a sound barrier. Is there anything you want to add with noise? Did I leave anything out?
Bass is usually a contributing factor to noise, which we will have turned down around that 10:30 mark. Just alleviate that too.
That's true. Okay. So trespassers, and I want to thank Carly here, who is the owner of Jumping Pound Ranch, and she's helped me really understand that trespassers are a concern. We hadn't seen any of this, so we didn't even think about this. So that's why it's so good to have these open forums where people can write in and share their concerns, because this sheds some light. So we were unaware that this was an issue until it was brought to our attention following the first circulation. We will make it very clear to our guests that they are not allowed to cross any fence lines nor walk along the canal. This is for their safety and out of our respect for our neighbors. And after sharing with Carly last night, she brought to our attention that when they went to council, they actually offered no trespassing signs to their neighbors so that they could put them on their property, and we will put those on the inside of our property as well. And this will be a conversation we have with staff going forward. It is really important, and we just want to make it very clear. We don't want anybody leaving our property. There's 30 acres. There's plenty of reasons to stay. Alcohol consumption. We'll hire only ProServe accredited bartenders. A few of them are here in this room. These are people that we are going to work with, and we already feel like are very highly trained to, feel the audience, see what's going on in an event. We have Alicia here. She would be the headspace for us. She's that opposite of me. She's not as touchy and squishy, but she will see the facts. And if somebody appears to be had too much to drink, she'll bring that to our attention. But we will build an entire presentation around that at the ranch. So we'll discuss those responsibilities, ensuring that our guests do not drink and drive. Our bartenders will be trained to cease serving any guests who appear to have had enough to drink. For each event, we will ask for a designated contact person with each event place that we sign a contract with to assist in the management of problem guests. The electronic gate that we've installed will be closed during the duration of any event and can only be opened by our staff or management, thereby giving us another opportunity to ensure that people are not drinking and driving. Camping. Okay, this is a big one. So I thank you, Sherry, for leaving this up for us. I'm gonna read this, and then I'm gonna walk over, if that's okay, and kind of point to you where the camping is. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so while we're talking about camping, these berms of trees are at the back of the 30 acres. So along the back of our property. Thank you. I'm so technically challenged. So this area back here backs up to a huge acreage. We don't see any houses back there.
Just a field.
Just a field. So there's a really nice sound barrier. Those are mature, big, large trees. The house is at the far end in the beginning of that picture. So the said camping would be back there. So since then, I'm going to read this. We want to clear up any misconceptions concerning camping on our property. Landscaping our property took more than 2 months, so we enlisted the help of friends and family. We invited 2 couples to park their RVs on our property, thereby minimizing their travel time throughout the project as they lived in Calgary. We do not see this as people living on the property. When it snowed, we were simply unable to get the RVs off the property, so we allowed our friends to leave them on the ranch until spring. We have since learned by the bylaws what those rules are, and will follow those going forward. It is unfortunate because the rumors around our friends visiting with their campers and helping us with our project has blown so far out of proportion, because that was clearly not what happened. We never had anybody living on our property. Today, we want to make it very clear that we do not want to operate a public campground. We don't want a public campground. We want our neighbors to know we do not want a public campground. And I want to say where I think some of this happened is when we very first came to sit down with our application process, we were told by Taylor, ask for more, you can always fall back. But once you get your you're permitting, it's harder to go back and ask for more and more and more. And we've learned that from other people who have had venues. So that was kind of our process in the beginning of our first application writing is, okay, we'll have camping, but we never meant open to the public, everybody come camping. So to clear that up today, the camping would be the 5 or 6 people that are helping the people having an event. And that's going to be weddings, not really public events that are going on, because those will be people here we're doing fundraisers with. They will live here. But if somebody wants to come and help, we're thinking these people will come on a Friday and help set up for the wedding and then stay. I know these people will come on Friday nights and have a pre-rehearsal dinner. They may have some drinks. They're going to be there early in the morning to help us set up. So that's what that is about. So does anybody have any thoughts around camping? We just want to say no public camping. Okay.
Everybody seems to be stuck on
Camping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rave parties and motorcycle rallies. Aaron and I have never been to a rave party. And we've never hosted a rave party. We do not know where this is coming from because it never happened at the
Sorry,
ranch.
just have to cut you off as the applicant. So the 10 minutes as per the procedural bylaw has passed.
Okay.
So council has the authority to extend that by resolution. Thank you.
Council's wishes.
So we're okay?
We just will need a motion just to extend the presentation time
I'll make that motion
to
to extend.
allow the applicant an extended application time. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question.
Hang on.
I haven't seen it yet. Motion is carried. Please proceed.
Thank you. We're almost done. Aaron and I have never been to a rave party. Okay, so let's see. Neither has there never been a motorcycle rally at the ranch. The owner of the company that did our dirt work owns a motorcycle, and one small group of guests arrived with their motorcycles, stayed 2 nights, and departed on their motorcycles. In no way does this constitute a rally. Lastly, Aaron and I want to move forward, applying all that we've learned from Wheatland County. Thank you, Sherry. We've had lots of meetings and been very patient with us, trying to learn this process. We will be offering agritourism events and unique lodging, which supports the mandate for Travel Alberta, marketing Alberta to high-value travelers from all around the world. We are in full gratitude for this opportunity. And now Aaron is going to read a part of our application designation that was changed that wasn't read earlier. So he just wants to read this regarding washrooms.
Just something that might have got missed. In June 26, we sent it to Taylor that we purchased a 7-stall washroom to stay on the property. So we won't be having more traffic and stuff. And then we'll just take care of everything on that trailer. But yeah. Thank you very much.
Includes
you.
us. Thank you so much for hearing us.
So any questions from council? Just recalling that we will reserve debate for after the close of the public hearing. But any questions of clarification for the applicant? Thank you. We'll now open the floor to those who would like to speak in support of the application. So individuals speaking will have 5 minutes to speak. Okay, and groups will be allotted 10 minutes, and we just ask that you state your name at the beginning of your presentation. Good morning.
Good morning, Reeve Link, councillors. My name is Natasha Fife, and I proudly serve as the Executive Director of the Strathmore Wheatland Chamber of Commerce. I stand before you not just as a representative of our local business community, but as someone who has had the privilege of getting to know the owners of the Gathering Ranch on a personal level. Today, I wish to advocate for the land redesignation to this exceptional venture, for I believe it holds great promise for a community's growth and prosperity. The Gathering Ranch is not just any business. It's a testament to the enduring spirit of entrepreneurship, community engagement, and commitment to the well-being of Wheatland County. Having had the pleasure of working closely with the owners, I can attest to their unwavering dedication and passion for this project. They're not just business people, they're community builders. Moreover, the Gathering Ranch has demonstrated a strong commitment to sustainability and community engagement. They have pledged to minimize environmental impacts, supporting the conservation of the beautiful natural surroundings. They're also eager to collaborate with local organizations, schools, and community groups, fostering a strong sense of unity within our county. As Carrie had mentioned, she just spoke with the Girl Guides of Canada, and she's hoping to host a camping overnight at her property for the kids. The economic ripple effects of granting permits and land redesignation to the Gathering Ranch will not be confined to their property alone. It will positively impact local suppliers, service providers, and local businesses, ultimately contributing to a more vibrant and thriving local economy. In conclusion, I implore the Wheatland County Council to see the tremendous potential in the Gathering Ranch. As someone who's had the privilege of knowing the owners and understanding their vision, I wholeheartedly support the request for this land redesignation. Let us move forward together towards a prosperous and connected future for Wheatland County. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in support of the application? Good morning. If you can just state your name for the record.
Good morning. My name is Terry Kinsman. Good morning, Wheatland County staff, Amber, sorry, and Reeve Link, sorry about that, and county, the Wheatland County staff as well, and the community. My name is Terry Kinsman, and together with my husband Marv, we operated the Rockingar Guest Ranch for 15 plus years, showcasing the best of Southern Alberta and all that Wheatland County has to offer. We hosted many events at the ranch, including weddings, and we thoroughly enjoyed being in the tourism business. I met Carrie and Aaron in the fall of 2021. Carrie visited the ranch to view our operation and ask questions about the wedding business. I liked her instantly. She had all the makings of a successful entrepreneur: curiosity, passion, creativity, and excellent communication skills. As I got to know her better, I realized she also has a growth mindset, a great sense of community, and a willingness to partner with others for the greater good of all. Carrie and Aaron are hard workers and have integrity. If they say they're going to do something, they will follow through on their promises. I have been working with Carrie and Aaron for the better part of 2 years, sharing my experiences with tourism and weddings and helping them navigate the development permit process. Like the Youngs, we had neighbors who were unhappy about our decision to build a wedding venue. Many of our neighbors, like some of you, operated businesses from their farms and ranches. We found a way to make it work for everyone, and I believe that you can too. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in support of the application?
Good morning, Reeve Link,
Morning.
council members, staff, and community. My name is Bruce Kleiber. I'm the sponsor and supporter of the Legacy Farm Project in Strathmore, the neighboring municipality. And I want to speak in favor of the Gathering Ranch. One of our main themes of the Legacy Farm Project is to turn this area into a tourist destination spot. And my feeling is that the more locations we have to offer different opportunities for people to come here, the more reasons they will have to make it a destination spot. And so I want to speak in favor of what Aaron and Carrie want to do with the Gathering Ranch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Carly Patterson, and I'm here to speak at council today to express my support of the proposed land use change. I am an owner of a very similar venue on the other side of Calgary, actually just southwest of Cochrane. Although we are now good friends, Carrie and I actually met when she reached out to me as another local venue owner who was starting a new business in the area and wanted to share ideas. She had an amazing idea to start a local mastermind group, to help all venue owners and operators in the region support each other, share best practices, and grow in our business and as individuals. Although the goals of this group are multifaceted, I want to emphasize that Carrie, and in the background supporting Aaron, of course, encourages community support, growth, and implores all of us to support local vendors, to expand our offerings, and to build up our local communities. Carrie has been instrumental in helping my business in establishing our best practices for our venue, and much of our discussion is around very similar concerns that have been raised by their neighbors. The growth and expansion of Strathmore, as well as Calgary, is a coming reality. And coming out of COVID, there's a need for venues and event centers like this around Calgary. The residual benefits to the county when factoring in increased tourism dollars coming into the county is extremely valuable, as we have seen with our venue in the local Cochrane economy. We just finished year 2 of our operation, and what is clear to us is that couples are desperate for private wedding and event spaces that are away from the city and in rural settings, which I feel the Gathering Ranch would help fill this need. I also want to add that we actually have event-related camping that's permitted with our venue, and we've inputted pretty strict parameters around that, and our neighbors mostly were worried about fire and trespassing, and it's been very successful. We find that people attending the events, camping in adjacent to weddings, just feel very lucky to be able to be there and be part of the experience, and are extremely respectful. So I just want to speak to my own experience specifically around that. It's gone really well. With the right mitigation tactics, which I feel the Youngs have discussed today and in a lot of their application package, this type of development can strike a balance between maintaining the rural beauty and serenity of Wheatland County and increased tourism dollars that can stay within the community. I'm of the opinion that Carrie and Aaron are people of high integrity who strive to do right by people and build up their community. They chose Wheatland County for this venture because of its natural beauty and reputation for fostering both business and agriculture alike, which aligns with their goals. Given the inevitable need for development in this region, I feel that Carrie and Aaron are the kind of people that would make amazing stewards of the Wheatland County business development community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in support of the application? Is there anybody online who would like to speak in support of the application? I'll now open the floor to those who may have concerns or who are opposed to the application. I'll call a second time in case there's anybody online who would like to speak with concerns or who is opposed to the application.
Yes, I'm on the phone. If I could speak, that would be wonderful.
Certainly, if you can just state your name, please.
This is Deanne Romans. And since we were specifically mentioned, I just would like the opportunity to clarify some things. We did not attend their open houses, that is true. However, Carrie has had multiple conversations with Brandon and Bill. So that piece of that isn't quite accurate. We have had conversations with Carrie, and she's come through our yard many times as well. In regards to the trespassing piece, that's a big, huge concern for us. We caught somebody going through our equipment, contacted Carrie. She said it would never happen again. We've since caught 2 people after we communicated with her going again on our property, going through our equipment. So it's not just walking down the canal bank that we're concerned with. That's not our property. Anyone can walk the canal bank. But when they're walking their dogs and they're coming onto our property, and it's happened 2 times after she guaranteed it was not going to happen, it's big. It's a big, big concern for us. And then I think just the whole noise piece too. We have 4 properties less than a kilometer away from her camping. We do hear the boom, 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 so much so that it has kept my daughter-in-law and my 2-year-old grandson awake at night. We've asked her to turn the music down, and in my letter, there's a text message there where she said, yes, that's no problem. And she did carry through, and they did turn the music down, and that was great. But you also notice in that text message that she was not at the property. She was not at the house because the house, the residence, was rented out. So she's also renting out her so-called residence. She had told us in previous conversations that they would always be on site and ensuring that all policies, procedures would be met. And I think we've got proof in my letter that that's not the case. So we do have, I just want to express that we do have very strong concerns. Thank you for giving the time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else online who would like to express concern or opposition to the application? I'll just call one final time in case there's any challenges with technology. Is there anybody online who would like to present with concerns or in opposition to the application? Hearing none, the applicant has an opportunity to address any comments presented.
It says it's green, so that means it's on.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, first of all, I want to address and say 100% with my hand on my heart, I swear to everything that I know, I've never spoken to Bill Roman. We've called and left some messages when we were hearing some of these comments. I've gone over to Brandon's, and I will admit, I bawled my eyes out when I heard the thing about something he wrote about his 2-year-old grandson and drunk drivers. Brandon gave me a hug and said, I needed, and we didn't want to go here. We did not want to go here because this is family. But he told me I needed to go win his mom over. That was the issue. We have left that all alone since then. I have called, left several messages. I went over to Brendan's, back to his house, and said, how do I get a hold of your parents? I don't even know where they live. One of the misconceptions for us, and we feel like there's 2 families talking about one property because we don't even know where Bill lives. So, but to us, we feel like we know our integrity. So we didn't want to even do a hearsay thing. But I will say, neither one of us have ever spoke to Bill Roman about any of this. They did some concrete work on us for us that we paid them to do. We sent a message to Bill and asked Bill if he wanted to come collect the cribbing, which is to finish the site. They never came back. I referred their business to Terry Kinsman for some concrete. They never referred back. So I feel like there are communication styles that I don't know if they don't mesh. I wish that the Romans were here today so that they could see who we are as people and understand. We want nothing more than to get along with our neighbors. So to address the dogs, we've never had anybody on our property camping with dogs. That's not a thing. Aaron and I own Kaya and Layla. They are our daughters. They don't leave our side. I know some of you have been out there. The dogs do not leave our property. That is the #1 compliment. In fact, we get, would you come train our dogs? Our dogs don't leave our property. That has simply not happened. Now, to rebuttal and to be totally honest, Aaron and I came home from one date night last year. We need more of those. And we drove up to find the Romans' 2 big white dogs come and greet us at our house. That's been a problem in our neighborhood. We have been on there.
If we can just keep the comments related to the application,
Okay.
please.
So the dogs have been at our house. It's the opposite. So I just found that a little odd.
When we do take our dogs for a walk, not going up to. We only go to the corner of that canal on your right, top right-hand side, which their property is farther down. So our dogs and us do not go past that area, unlike the ATVs that go up and down the canal.
But again, it's not anybody's property. It's WID property, and it's been told by us by the WID, it's WID property. It's not legally really anybody's. None of us should be on the property, but they have said, you're not obstructing the property, you can walk the canal.
As for the noise, it's kind of funny where Inger is closer to us and isn't surrounded by trees, and she does not complain about our noise that we have.
We've
And
gone
she
over and
is
asked her.
just across the canal.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's pretty much all I have.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does council have any questions for any of the presenters? And does administration have any final comments?
No further comments. Thank you.
With that, we will close the public hearing for bylaw 2023-23. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council move second reading of bylaw 2023-23, this being the bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw 2016-01 to redesignate Area K Plan 9810989 from Ag General to Rural Business District as shown on the attached Schedule A forming part of this bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. Open the floor to questions and discussion.
Thanks for the presentation. Really good. Normally, well, we always look at about the land, not necessarily the people, but to hear that you are offering solutions to problems already is very enlightening. From experience sitting in this table, I've had to face the exact opposite and on approvals and things, and it's nice to hear that you're actively trying to find solutions to problems. So I have no problem supporting this.
Thank you, Deputy Ruth Clausen. Any other questions or discussion? Just a couple of thoughts from my perspective. I do just want to raise, just for all of us, from an experience that Councillor Bigger and I experienced during a recent noise issue in Councillor Bigger's area. There is a challenge with reading bass on a decibel reader. I did do just a little bit of research to understand those challenges because our decibel readers were not necessarily showing excessive noise, and yet windows were shaking, but it wasn't being picked up by the apps on our phones. And I think I'm not anywhere near a subject matter expert in this, but it's just the frequency of the bass does not always register. And so a question to administration, is there a way, like, I appreciate that decibels are objective and can be measured, but would there be a way, if this is approved, to address that concern within a condition, recognizing that bass is challenging to measure?
Through the read to council, yes. Speaking with our peace officers, the phone apps aren't quite as accurate as using an actual decibel reader. So we can work that through with that as a condition of the future development permit.
Okay. And I think part of that is to just the ambient noise level in rural is different than sometimes in a urban setting. And so even lower noise readings can still create a nuisance for adjacent landowners. In terms of proximity, sometimes, like, that's obviously one factor. Another factor that we found through this other distinctly different issue was even just wind direction would change which neighbors were impacted depending on the day. And I think there's multiple sort of meteorological factors that influence the impact of noise. To me, that is one consideration of an impact to adjacent landowners that we will need to look at if this is approved at the development permit stage, just because we recognize people do live in Wheatland County just for the quiet enjoyment of their property, and we want to maintain that while balancing that at the same time with promoting and cultivating an environment that's conducive to development and to tourism and to rural business. So it's just finding that balance, and because the redesignation to rural business does open up to multiple potential uses, we just have to be mindful of that. I think we do have strong processes through our development permit application where we can address those potential impacts to adjacent landowners. And I guess too, just for full transparency, when we're discussing applications and conditions, it's never about the applicant, because a redesignation or a DP, of course, will follow the land and not the owner. And so when I'm sitting in this chair, I try and be mindful and cognizant of thinking potential worst case scenario of the potentially, least ethical potential developer that could purchase a property in the future with the permitting that we allow or that we approve. And so it's never about an individual applicant. It's always looking long-term, how do we maintain the quality of life in Wheatland County that we currently have, and just finding that balance. I do also just want to emphasize that there are laws and bylaws to address things like trespassing. I would I would hope it wouldn't come to that, but there are mechanisms in place. I'm always just looking, what are the potential impacts and how do we address them? And so hopefully things can be offset in other, kind of more amicable ways. But if not, we do have laws and bylaws and enforcement that can address some of those concerns. I had one other piece and it has escaped me. Yeah, for me, it's just striking that balance and finding how do we mitigate things, and can they be mitigated? And there's certainly an appetite to mitigate that's been expressed. And I think a lot of this we will need to address at the DP stage if the redesignation is approved. Any other questions or discussion? If not, I will call the question. Motion is carried. Council's wishes. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'll move that council move third reading of bylaw 2023-23, this being a bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw 2016-01 to redesignate Area K Plan 9810989 from Ag General District to Rural Business District, as shown on attached Schedule A, forming part of this bylaw.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion?
I've just got one question for administration. When will these circulation comments be brought forward at the DP, or does everybody have to get involved in this?
That would be a new application.
Through the Reeve Council, that's correct. It would be, the circulation comments would come from the DP application itself, which will be circulated.
Okay, so and at that point, they will have to be specifically at the DP. Thank you very much.
That's correct.
Any other questions or discussion? I do recall my other point, and it was just to clarify, and the applicant did clarify as well, but the WID property, I just wanted to be very clear that that is private property as well, and that we would not condone trespassing on that property as well, just for the integrity of our irrigation systems. So I just wanted to make sure that that's super clear. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Just being mindful of the time, we will recess for lunch. Let's reconvene at 12:45. Does that give everybody enough time? Thanks, everybody. Good afternoon. We'll call the meeting back to order. Let's start with, sorry, just want to make sure. Let's go to 2.41. Or did I miss something?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm so
3.2.
sorry. Let's go to 2.13. My apologies. I felt like I was missing something.
Good afternoon, Council. Tracy from Administration. I'm here to present bylaw 2023-21, and it's a bylaw to repeal bylaw 2018-10, which was a loan to the Marigold Library System for the construction of their new head office, which has now been completed. So on September 28th, 2018, Council passed the bylaw providing the board with up to $2 million, a revolving loan to borrow specifically to build the head office. We created an agreement with them, and the agreement started January 1st, 2019, and the board requested $500,000. There's a typo in there. I had 6. It should be $500,000, which was paid in full on October 12th, 2022. There were no further requests, and the building is now complete. So we're requesting that the bylaw be repealed and that the Reeve and CAO sign the termination agreement between the board and the county. Any questions?
Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approves first reading of bylaw 2023-21 being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 2018-10, the Marigold Library System loan.
Any questions or discussion? Just a note, the Marigold Library Board Chair and Administration has expressed gratitude to the county for being open to the loan. At the time, it was appreciated to have that opportunity to have some of that bridge funding as that capital project was being planned and implemented. So just want to pass that along. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Now we can move to agenda item 2.41.
No,
Oh,
got a whole bunch of.
gosh. Sorry, guys. Council's wishes for second reading. Thank you, everybody.
I'll move that council approve second reading of bylaw 2023-21.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried.
I'll move that council grant permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2023-21.
Call the question. Motion is carried unanimously.
I'll move that council approves third and final reading of bylaw 2023-21.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And the final recommendation?
Move that council authorizes the Reeve and Chief Administration Officer sign the termination agreement between Marigold Library Board and Wheatland County.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. I'm being extra careful to check. Let's move to 2.41. I asked administration to just place an agenda item regarding funding for Drumheller. When the CRISP agreements terminated in 2020, we then went on to negotiate recreation funding with the town of Strathmore, as it had been clarified by the minister that that would be excluded from the CMRB cost sharing discussions that we were in at the time. And then we did go on to enter into infrastructure funding agreements with the 3 villages that are within Wheatland County that had been party to the CRISP agreement. Drumheller had also been party to CRISP agreement funding in that 5-year contract between 2015 and 2020. And I had communication from the mayor of Drumheller. Mayor Kohlberg reached out, I think last week or the week before, just asking if our council would be open to a discussion around cost sharing. They stated, based on the fact that we have Wheatland County residents who access recreation funding within Drumheller, and there could be other services as well that may be shared between our municipalities. At this point, I wouldn't be asking for any decision from council, but just perhaps to direct administration to prepare an RFD with some contextual and historical information for our consideration, and just to see if we could start that discussion and see where it could go. Drumheller is initiating this conversation with the other municipalities that share borders with Drumheller as well. I think they have 4 counties that border them, I think. And the other piece of this is the town of Drumheller is doing a pilot project and trialing paid parking within town. I don't know all of the details around that. There are, I believe, residency permits that can be applied for. So it is a mechanism that is used to generate revenue in municipalities and can be particularly effective where you have a lot of tourism. So you share some of that responsibility for the infrastructure, the additional infrastructure that's required to support tourism, and that's one way to fund it. Mayor Kohlberg did want to just reach out and see if we were getting any sort of feedback from residents about their municipality implementing that from our ratepayers. And I guess it sort of indirectly ties into the cost sharing concept or the funding agreement concept, just because with us not currently providing like a yearly funding to the municipality to account for some of our potential ratepayer usage. We have provided historical funding most recently in terms of a request that we had for cost sharing on a bridge file that we had approved and provided funding for. Administration could bring more details on that back with an RFD for our consideration. And yeah, so it's more just opening it up for discussion and seeing if there's an appetite to have it brought back for consideration. I'll open the floor to questions or discussion. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
They have a border that touches ours, correct? So we have to have an agreement with them that we don't have in place right now, or we had one.
We have an
There's a
IDP and an
mechanism there.
ICF approved.
There's a mechanism in there to deal with this kind of thing.
There is, I think at the time we did not, like it does not include any cost sharing in our current agreements. I believe there is a provision where municipalities can request to have that revisited. But I believe, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But yes, the ICF process often does.
And that's reviewed every 10 years.
ICFs are 5, I believe. IDP
So it's
is
got to be
10.
coming close. It'd be about 2 years into it, right? Somewhere in there.
It would be longer than that.
I don't have a problem gathering the information because I think we're going to need it at some point in the future anyways and start a process.
Any other questions or discussion? Oh, it was
I
2020.
I have no problem with gathering the information because I think all this information is all good to have, like it wouldn't be bad if somehow you could gather the information for all the towns, villages that are, so that way you can find out just exactly how many of the of our ratepayers are using their deal. Because if we're using their system and we're using then we should be paying.
That was the final note that I was trying to recall. Mayor Kohlberg also indicated that they are starting some data gathering in terms of usership for their facilities, the Badlands Center and whatnot in Drumheller. So we should have some data around what percentage of Wheatland County residents are using. And she said they're being very conscientious to get full addresses. So we should have some good data. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
A couple years back, we had a discussion about having like ID cards for people. I'd really like to revisit that and see what the costs are to basically give county residents an RF tag or something on their keys that they could scan in rec facilities. I know some people are opposed to that, but I think if you want true data, that would give you the data. And then all these neighboring municipalities that we have would have some kind of way to read the code. And it's just, you scan in just like we have here, and it would show their county residents. You could have a demographic attached to them. I wouldn't want personal information or anything like that, but you'd know that people actually use that facility, and then that data could be gathered, and it would be accurate data, because we're going to pay for consultants to come up with information, and that we could invest in something like this, and it would give you the data. To me, I think I could see the whole province going this way. I know school divisions do it. When we had school buses, my wife and I, the kids in Rocky View all had the scanners. They got on the bus and it was attached to their backpack, and they knew exactly who was on that bus at any time, where they got off. So if a parent phoned and said, "Where's Johnny?" they could pull it up on the screen and say, "Johnny's here, was dropped off at this time." So it's easy to gather that information. The technology's there. I know when we looked at it before, I believe there was a budget item for it, and we just stopped it. But I'd like to see if we could revisit that.
Councillor Laprise.
So I think it's the right thing to do to provide funding to our neighbors where our residents are using services there. I'm not sure I agree with that, because then you've got data that's constantly changing. I think if we found an order of magnitude kind of, and then revisited it occasionally to make sure that we're still in the realm of what's realistic, then I think that's the way I would go with it. But I do think it's the right thing to do.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
My response to that would be, you could set a per capita cost, and then that actual data would be reconciled at the end of the year. You'd have the actual data and you'd know. And if the numbers were skewed, like say somebody grabbed a tag and was just hitting it off, you'd be able to, that IT's there now, you'd know that that tag has been repeatedly hit, or someone was abusing something or something like that. I just think it would give us an easy way to tell our residents that, yeah, we're doing this and here's the reason why, and here's the usage. We set a per capita cost, so if you use it, we're going to have to fund it. That's all I'm thinking. Because we got so many partners here around the area that people go to Bazzano, people go all over the place, like, so.
I sort of like to explore this at a committee of the whole, just only because I can see there being benefits, like with the transfer station at just outside of town. You could find out whether or not what percentage, if like, you could find out what percentage of the garbage is actually being used by ratepayers. If it, maybe it's 100%, maybe it's 90%. And then if it's enough, then you can sit down there and say, do you really want to take? And I mean, if it's just a matter of just taking your fob and just swiping it on and continuing on what you're doing, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Any other questions or discussion? So at this point, I think we don't necessarily need to like drill down to like the methods or the means. It sounds like there's some openness to having a discussion. And just for clarity as well, we do have a signed ICF from 2020 with Drumheller. A discussion around this would still align with the framework within the ICF. The ICF agreement between Wheatland County and Town of Drumheller will, one of the points is recognize and share the vision and priorities of the two municipalities toward providing effective and efficient service levels to their citizens. And then it says where feasible and practical, each municipality will work together to assess how commonly utilized services will be provided and funded for the benefit of citizens. So I think it would still align within the framework to have the discussion now and explore this. I think the best thing would be to have administration bring back an RFD with sort of the context that they can provide. There are different mechanisms that we have looked at, some around usership. There was one where our administration, remember when they had the radiuses around different types of amenities, like whether it's for arenas, it might be a smaller radius because there's more arenas in the region, and then swimming pools and different types of recreational amenities or that type of thing, or other services as well. We have joint, the fire, the name's escaping me, where we provide backup service.
Auto call or mutual aid.
Mutual aid. We have mutual aid agreements with many of our neighboring municipalities, and at times there's funding considerations with those, and some of them are just, we agree to without cost. I think our fire services have provided some background around that, but there could be other services. So administration could bring information on what services there are that our ratepayers may be accessing, and if there's any considerations in terms of contemplating funding. So perhaps a motion to direct administration to draft an RFD with some context for council to consider regarding cost sharing with the town of Drumheller, if somebody wants to make that motion?
I'll move that motion.
Councillor Baker? Any questions or further discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'd like to make a motion to have administration look into some kind of identification like we did similar before and see what the costs are and bring it to like a committee of the whole meeting for us to discuss and see if it's possible to implement in the future.
Any questions? You're making a motion?
Yes.
Just give Shanna a moment. So to direct administration to bring information back regarding
Tracking,
system.
yeah, RFID tracking or something like that.
A system to track usership.
Usership, yeah.
Of
And rec
services.
facilities, could be libraries, could be our waste transfer sites, it could be anything, right? But not personal identification. Just that you're a county resident. Okay. Sorry. Wordsmith as good as you can. System to track users. Yeah, that's good. Moved by the council direction to direct administration to bring back a report on a system to track users of facilities.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? Call the question. Oh. Motion is carried. And we did have a 1 o'clock appointment regarding a tax stability bylaw inquiry. If you can just push the button on the microphone, the large. Perfect. And if you just want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your time this afternoon. My name is Matt Whiteman. I'm the lead developer for the Nova Solar project and transmission line that's been under development for the last few years here in Wheatland County. I'm here with my colleague Dan Visser, who leads development for all of our Western Canadian projects. So we'll be brief this afternoon. Just wanted to give you maybe a quick background on the company. So RES is the largest independent renewable energy company in the world. We're operating in 10 countries around the world, very large wind and solar storage transmission line portfolio. We also do a lot of operational support for a number of operational assets from third parties. And we've got quite a large number of employees all around the world, and that's about to double. So more on that later. But thought I would focus on the Nova Solar project. So many of you probably know about this project already. It's been in development since about 2020. And it's within the Goldfinch industrial area. So it's ideally located with interconnection capacity on the line there. And I know that I've started a discussion on taxes for this project with a few of you already. Just wanted to come in and say a few words on that subject today. So You can see the current development timeline. So we faced about a year delay with the AUC withholding our permit for the transmission line. I'm in Alberta for the next 3 weeks consulting with your neighbors to submit a fresh facility application. So we hope to enter construction on the project in the spring of 2025 and complete the project by the end of 2026. And I just threw the last 10 years of mill rates for the county up here as well, just for reference. Thank you again, Brian, for sharing that with us. So I guess, you know, with any luck, we will be your neighbors under this patch of sun for the next 30 to 50 years. We intend to be good neighbors, and we look forward to enriching the countryside year after year. So I see this as a bit of just an introductory discussion since I only have a few minutes. I don't want to go into too much detail today. And I wanted to recognize that Wheatland County already has a very stable tax base, and wondering if we can have a bit of discussion to see if we can make a good thing great. So I've included here, this is the assessment value of the investment capital that we'll be bringing into the county with our project. So $160 million represents about 8% of the non-residential assessment base. And I wanted to kind of demonstrate to you why I think that will be good, not just for us, but for the county as well. Generally, we see a number of counties across the province putting tax stability bylaws or incentives in place to encourage renewable energy projects to come and establish themselves. We hope that will increase that trend. And I see this as a real opportunity to strengthen the offering to investors who are taking a look at the Goldfinch industrial area. So I wanted to share a few examples from other municipalities that are specifically related to renewable energy. Each of these areas has implemented new regulations tailored to the specific kinds of investment that they're trying to attract. And so Starland County offers a full or partial tax exemption for developers of renewable energy projects. We have Cardston County that offers partial tax exemption that are specific to projects making long-term investments. We also have Vulcan County that has stabilized their tax rate for developers. Sturgeon County as well has reduced property tax liability. And then generally for non-residential, not specifically related to renewable energy, we see Wheatland County, and you're the experts here, not me. So, but I understand currently offers partial tax exemption of the incremental annual municipal tax increase. And as well, Vulcan County has two classes of non-residential projects, and they offer a graduated exemption scale over a maximum of 4 years. So you see there's a kind of a range of different kinds of tax opportunities, tax incentives, bylaws across the province. And so we're hoping to maybe start a discussion with Wheatland County to explore how we might create a similar bylaw that might benefit not only the Nova Solar project, but also others, as I say, interested in the area. So if we want to take a look specifically at the benefits of renewable energy to Wheatland County, RES in its business model tends to operate and maintain projects over their life. So we will have somebody in the community for the next 50 years, able to I guess have a presence in and upholding the values that RES tries to bring to all of our development projects. It allows the municipality to grow and diversify its non-residential assessment base. Obviously, we've been using lots of local businesses, caterers, booking space for our open house. Clearly, providing 150 megawatts of renewable energy to the Alberta grid over the next 30 to 50 years is aligned with Alberta's targets as well as the federal targets of reaching net zero by 2050. Obviously, the environmental impact is very low. We've demonstrated that already through our recent AUC proceeding in March. And then it also creates a lot of stable revenue for the municipality through the tax levy. So I guess specifically the benefits of having a tax stability bylaw in place for this project or similar projects is that really it enables us to have more confidence or provide more confidence and stability for our investors. You can imagine companies like RES and the stable of investors we work with look for that certainty, and we tend to model our financial projections assuming that that the tax regime doesn't change wildly, and so we just want to try and minimize the economic risk to the economic viability of our project. So I'll just share a couple of potential options to consider. I invite council to consider these or add any additional thoughts if those are your preference. So one option would be a 5-year deferral agreement from 25 to 2030, and then have those deferred payments equalized over the following 10 years. Another option would be the same, but for a 10-year deferral agreement to have those payments equalized over the following 10 years after that expires. A third agreement would be, a third option, I should say, would be to have the first 5 years of taxes drop to 50%, and then to use a portion of that to top up the shared community benefit fund that we are establishing, $50,000 a year, which is an agreement, our commitment we've already made publicly again to the residents of Carsland near the project, and of course those agreements could be negotiated regularly. So I'll stop there. Happy to field any questions either about the power project or the transmission line or ideas about tax. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions?
I'm not expecting any decisions, obviously, immediately, but I would certainly be interested in continuing the conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Council's wishes.
I'll make a motion to accept this information.
Any questions or discussion? I support the motion to accept as information. I will just highlight a concern that I would have, just an initial thought about the inequity of shifting future risk to non-renewable industry. I think we've shown that we do have like a very stable tax rate. Our mill rate has been decreasing since 2018. There are factors outside of our control. We control many of those factors and I think have been focused and committed to reducing taxes as much as possible. But at times there are factors outside of our control that could influence either assessment or our ability to collect taxation or that type of thing. And so I would be concerned about particularly a renewable specific tax stability bylaw. And then I see some risks with a tax stability bylaw in general in terms of our ability to address factors that may arise in terms of continuity and maintaining service levels and those types of things within Wheatland County. So I support the motion, but just providing my rationale for doing so. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I put for more information, just it's information. I appreciate it. Has my thoughts changed on anything? No. We have had several producers come here, wind, solar, and haven't asked for this. So I would not support even going down this road at all. I think we have a really decent tax rate. We're looking right now in budget time coming up, trying to figure out how to pay for power that is going up, and I could argue because of these things, but I'm not going to. So yeah, I just say if you want to build, this is the way it is.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Thank you for your presentation and for bringing this information forward. We'll move to agenda item 2.42. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 74 of your agenda package is the resolution tracker. Any resolution in yellow is deemed ongoing and any in green is deemed complete. If there are any questions about the resolution tracker, please let me know. Thank you.
Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the council resolution tracker dated October 17, 2023 as information.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And we'll move to agenda item 2.43.
Good afternoon, Council. Joel Chasson from Financial Services here to present the 2024 utility rate strategy. Administration in this report is simply looking to obtain direction from Council on their desire for any utility rate changes for the upcoming 2024 year. Included in the report are 3 scenarios showing the estimated utility account billings, specifically for some hamlets, as well as overall estimates on net financial results. The 2024 values are based on the current working draft of the 2024 interim budget, which will be set to be approved around December. The most notable change from the 2023 budget year is an increase for contractor services. I'll just kind of briefly go through some of the content of the report here, just to explain it. So we included the current rates just for reference in the background section, and also just summarized the last rate increase, which you can see was November 1st of 2022. And that was a general rate increase of 15%. Pretty much across the board. If you might recall, we did some decreases, I believe, in some Muirfield rates to bring consistency in all the rates. So we described some rate options here, and we proposed 3. So something to keep in mind as well is that it could be anything outside of this range as well. We just wanted to give an idea structurally of what these percentages would look like. Another thing to keep in mind is that generally when we calculated it, that 1% increase in tax tax in utility fees generally netted about $10,000 to the bottom line for operational results. So the first scenario is fairly straightforward. It's a 0% or just status quo to the revenue structure. The second one being using kind of a CPI average just as a benchmark. We took just a period of time here to just yield a 3% average. We went a little bit longer in the time frame just because, as most people are aware, the inflationary rates recently have been pretty high, so that just kind of just provided a good metric to use. And then what we provided here as well was what the rate structures for each hamlet and community would look like with a 3% increase as well. And similarly, we did the same math on the 15% increase. So 15% was an interesting number because, as was just mentioned, 15% is what the county went up last increase. And so what we did is we took the approach to calculate what would revenues have to be in order for the net contribution from, say, general revenue, whether it's tax or other funds to the function, for that to stay very similar to how the 2023 budget structure was. And it happened to be about 15% to keep that consistent. So from there, we used kind of an average account billing or cubic meters and did some calculations on what I suppose an average bill you could say would be in the upcoming year with all three scenarios. If you recall as well, in the prior year, we showed some information about what rates could look like or what kind of revenue increases might be required in order to get to take away subsidization fully from the function. And just for reference, we included that in the report. There's quite a substantial amount of room to go if we were to increase it to a level where there would be no subsidy from other revenue sources. From there, we showed some community comparatives as well. Within here, we left out, I believe it's Cluny, yes, sorry. We left out Cluny because they only have wastewater servicing. So just to be consistent, we included just the communities that had water and wastewater billing. So we have an average of that with kind of a little graph on each one. And then showing an updated table similar to our 2022 report of where the county sits compared to some other municipalities in terms of the average bills. Just go through the attachment briefly here. Zoom in a little bit more. So here we broke down the overall kind of budgeted net financial results or projected results. We have our last year's budget and what the overall consolidated subsidy was based on the budget with the subsidy percentage or contribution rate provided. And then what we've done here is also revisited those three scenarios that we discussed to show, based on the draft 2024 budget changes, how would the subsidy or consolidated subsidy look based on each scenario, as well as what the percentages would look like. And as you can see, the 15% would provide around 58, which is similar to the prior year. We also provide some other information about number of accounts per community and kind of what the subsidy per account would look like based on those calculations. That concludes the report. Staff are available for any questions.
Any questions for administration? Councillor Larson.
So finances right after lunch is never a good idea.
Yeah.
Which one's going to cost, which one is going to be the best option for the user to pay rather than other ratepayers to pay? Like which one is going to cost other ratepayers the least?
Reducing
amount of money?
subsidization.
Yeah, reduce the subsidization.
Oh, sorry, just to clarify, which alternative will reduce the reliance on non-utility revenue sources or
Yes.
release?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, if you really want to word it that way, we can do that.
Just want to clarify. Yeah, so through the REEV, in this case, with the three scenarios, the 15% increase would be the one that would do that.
So when I was looking at the, your last sheet, the subsidy review, it just occurred to me that I wonder if Clooney should be not included in this, because every time we increase the rate, which I agree is important to reduce subsidization, Clooney gets closer and closer to zero. Eventually Clooney would be then subsidizing others. So I think that Clooney should be looked at separately because it's just the wastewater and not the water. But like they're still, at 15%, they would still be at, well, they'd be at 25% subsidized. And I also thought that really by having non-residential taxation in our county, we want to increase that. It's to provide these kind of services. I'm not sure we should get to 0% subsidization. I think maybe 25% might be a good target or something that we should consider, but I wouldn't like to see us increase Clooney by 15% this year, 15% next year, 15%, and then all of a sudden they're paying more than their fair share. So that's my comment about it.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any other questions or discussion? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yeah, it's never fun to do this exercise, but it is like Councillor Larson was asking about subsidizing. We have people that have no access to the system paying for it, which can be residential, can be whatever. There's no way of really setting that out other than in your head when you're doing budgeting and we set these mill rates, that you could probably figure it out that way. But I do know that the costs of these plants and everything's going up, the labor's going up, everything's going up because of power, natural gas, the whole 9 yards. Unfortunately, I look at it as water and sewer is a service no different than natural gas and electricity. Just because municipalities run it, we make it political, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. When I got on board here 6 years ago, it was much worse than this. We were really heavily subsidizing a lot of things, and we brought it up quite a bit. We're still at the low end of the scale, but we're getting closer, and I like your discussion on we need to set a percentage where we want to be and get to that point. We've never had that really discussion. I'd like to have it zero across the board, but you bring up great points. But how we figure that out, I don't know. It's really hard when you go down this rabbit hole. We've been down there a few times. We've looked at labor, we've looked at different ways of doing it, and at the end of the day, the rates are what they are. I sit on WRC as well, and our rates are fairly high because the costs are just there, and we are a cost recovery business. We have to, cost plus 5%. We provide service to the county, and our water rate is now 5 something. 613 a cubic meter, and our labor rate. So it's up there. So that cost is what we're buying from our municipally controlled corporation to provide services to Gleason and Rosebud. So there's so many different dynamics to this. It's hard to figure out, but yeah, we're still a long ways off, and it's hard because it's tough for people right now, but it's everywhere.
And I'm not arguing that it's not a difficult thing and that across the board we need to do it. I'm just suggesting that Clooney is a unique situation that they don't have water. They don't have the infrastructure for water. They don't have any of that cost.
At one time it was on there. There was a water line going to go out there from WRC. Councillor at the time said that's no longer needed. That could come back in the future too at some point.
It could, and at that point we'd revisit it, but.
But I think for staff, if we had a general subsidy plan where the limits were and we could work towards it, would probably help them a lot too.
Yep.
That's just my thoughts.
So I have some thoughts here. I know that I know how much our bills are in Speargrass and Carsland, and I think they're high already. If we were going to do, I would be okay with an average or a smaller increase this year and maybe warn everybody about next year. I think this year's, you're just not giving any warning, and the utility bills already are coming in quite high. And I do have another thought on when you go back to these debentures. I had a question on Rosebud. Are they not on their lagoon now? Is waste going into the lagoon? Yeah. So did they not debenture that? No?
The lagoon? No.
No?
So that was 75% grant funded by AMWIP, I believe. And then the other 25% we just took out of unallocated reserves and the reserves that were there. So I don't know the breakdown of the exact amount, but that's kind of just how it was handled.
Okay. Okay, so, and if that's the case, then I do feel that our Carsland and Speargrass wastewater debenture should be shared with Muirfield. Would bring our debenture down. They're using our facilities too. So I would kind of like someone to look into maybe having Muirfield help pay off the debenture that is with Carsland and Speargrass until they have their own wastewater facilities. So that would help there. In the future, I want to try to get, like we have the most users. We have a 49% subsidy, where, you know, other ones are at, you know, 64, 71. I think that we should wait till things are a little bit more clear the following year and try the lower increase this year, and then kind of spread the word that the increase next year would be more. It allows the government to do some utility, you know, the provincial government is looking at utility avenues to help residents. Maybe by then they would have something concrete. But I just think going up to 15% actually will hurt my area quite hard.
Administration and then Councillor Eichert.
Through the Reeve to Councillor Bigger. Thank you for your note about informing residents. We have also made that note, and we will be creating a process for 2024. However, I did want to say for this year, should council go with an increase, we then have to bring back the master fee schedule, and that would be to the meeting in November. And so that does leave a little time to inform residents. So we're recommending it would be effective February 1st rather than January 1st. So that's just a recommendation so that there is more time to inform residents, and that will be improved in 2024.
Yeah, and I guess my point is too, is that to have a schedule of what this year's increase is and what next year's increase is, and like have it even 2 or 3 years out so that people can prepare and plan and, you know, change whatever faucets they want to do, whatever will help the residents with their water bills.
Thank you.
Like I pay 160 to 180. My last one was 200. I mean, it was a dry year. That's a lot for a single person in a home with zero-scape lawn.
Councillor Eichert.
They kill me. Is there any way for administration, like we struggle with this all the time. If we could come with a number that we could agree with, that we're going to subsidize those water and wastewater, say at 25%, because it strikes me as being sort of inherently unfair for Carsland and Muirfield, because they have everything in their own system. Like in Gleason, Gleason and Rosebud both have their own wastewater, but the amount of money we subsidize for them to have water is, but they live in a place where getting water is difficult. And I just don't know how but it would, like if we, it may be just a pipe dream, just trying to figure out that if we could say, this is the mark, we agree that we're gonna subsidize to 25%, and your water's gonna cost you more in Gleason than it's gonna cost you in Carsland. And I know everybody's gonna be up in arms, but as Councillor Clausen will tell you, it doesn't take you many days without water to realize how important water is. And at that point in time, you don't care what the price of water is. We as municipality across the board, we somehow think that water is supposed to be cheap, and it's the most important thing you need to live. So, so we've done a horrible job over the last 100 years to do this, and trying to change that mindset I know will be difficult. I don't know if it's possible that you can have different rates in different communities, but I would like administration to take a look at it.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Councillor Eicher, I believe we've done that exercise before, and it gets to be we went to back. I had my residents that wanted to be the same as everybody else, so I went to bat for them. You're going to have your residents that want to be, they're closer. We might be getting closer to that point. I'm all for setting different rates. It's a lot of work for admin, and then it becomes. But I think right now, what I'd like to see is Councillor Bigger was a rate increase and give a 3-year thing. I think the first year we were here, we did that. We did a 3-year. So everybody knew it was going to happen, and I think it was 3 or 4% or something like that every year. Similar to CPI, gives us some time to work on what you're talking about, and I'm willing to go down that rabbit hole again because it is unique situation here. We have contracted work, we have non-contracted work, we have the costs are different in each municipality, absolutely, and I can justify that all day long. And do we treat everybody the same? This is a huge county with huge differences in areas. And, water and wastewater works, the more utility customers you have, generally the cheaper it gets. And we have some areas that don't have that many. Like Rosebud is very expensive because there's that many people there. So, and the cost to run things out there for projects is the same, or if not more, for people to go out there and do the work. So,
Councillor Laprise.
So just following up that, question to administration, has the work been done to find out whether other counties with vast geographical areas and small hamlets within, do they do variable rates, or do they try to keep them the same across the board?
Some definitely do. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. Joel or Bryce may know, but I know some do for sure.
Have variable rates?
Yeah.
So I think this has been really good discussion. I'm going to just propose a thought, and it could address some of Councillor Laprise's concerns around Clooney. What if we contemplated a 15% increase on water, and then we wouldn't be like delineating out Clooney specifically, but we would be like contemplating that they are it would help address the disparity in the rate subsidy, because it would be applying the increase disproportionately to those communities that have water. One of the things I'm mindful of is we mandate use of our system. Now people choose to live in the hamlets where we have servicing, but we do require that you use our service where the service is provided. So I'm mindful of that. For me, philosophically, my preference would be that we work towards cost recovery, that be our goal, is to get to 100% cost recovery on utilities specifically, because they are a service that not all ratepayers have access to. And so I think it's unjust for the 90%-ish of ratepayers to subsidize the 10% who have access to those services. However, that being said, and we did have these conversations before, and Councillor Bigger raised it as well, it can be a hardship on our utility users if we were to do it in one substantive change. So My preference would be to do incremental increases like we did over the last 3 years. And concurrent with those rate increases, I would like to see direction to administration, and I know you're probably already doing this, but just to explore every avenue to reduce our costs, and as well for WRC to continue to pursue all efficiencies possible, because that directly translates into costs for our utility users as well. I would support the 15% on the water rate. It wouldn't be, it's slightly different than what's proposed in terms of impact on, say, a monthly cost to ratepayers. I appreciate administration's commitment to communicate that. When you actually look at the monthly bill, it's a somewhat, 15% is not insignificant, but hopefully with enough advance warning, people can address it. And then my preference, one thing that we had, and we didn't, I don't think, solidify it in a resolution, but we had committed to that 15% a year until we were at cost recovery. This year, it would not advance us closer towards cost recovery, but it at least would mitigate getting further away from that and be cognizant of all of the financial challenges that people are experiencing right now. The other thing we have to keep in mind is this could impact, now obviously not substantively, but our mill rates, because the more we're subsidizing utilities, the more general revenue has to pay for the utilities. And we're also striving towards minimizing our mill rate. And this is one way that we can control, to certain, like in a very small way, mill rates. So when I do talk to ratepayers about utility rates, I do ask them to be mindful of utility rates within the context of their total taxation as well, even though they're two distinctly different expenses. They do, especially when we are subsidizing, they do tie together. So those are my thoughts. I don't know if anyone else has any considerations around that, but I just thought it might be a compromise to address the fact that wastewater typically is not as subsidization heavy. And then just one final comment, then I'll go to Deputy Reeve Clausen around the different rates. I think we would have to be really careful with that, just because we did just put such a significant change with Muirfield under the philosophy that we did want to strive towards sort of equity within our utility system, recognizing that there certainly are distinct costs. But we did reduce that burden, and it was, if I recall, it was basically to sort of create some, looking more at our utility system as like a municipal system, even though there are distinct systems within that and things we do have to recognize. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
So if we just did a water rate, I know sewer is calculated off of water, but it'd be calculated on usage, but not the actual dollar figure, correct?
Right.
Yeah, because sewer has its own.
That's
rate.
correct.
Yeah, so that would work.
I have another meeting, so I got to.
Thank you.
Just a point to the chair. We do have an 1:30 appointment, and they are here just as,
yes,
for information.
They're
They're in the lobby.
Watching.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do we want to recess this and continue after the appointment, just being mindful of their time? Sorry to our administration. Is everybody agreeable?
Sure.
Sure. If we could invite the RCMP in, please.
Utility rates. It's the cheapest option for WRC.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. Council, all my comments today will be through the CEO to the chair to the rest of council for this information session, if you will, and a bit of a catch-up. Thank you for having me appear before council yet again, just to have an opportunity to meet with you, to give you a small update on what we've been up to, but also to hear any questions or concerns that council may have. I know it's a bit of a late submission, but I do have our September crime statistics to produce in front of you, which I'll give a brief overview, as well as the continuance of some of our crime prevention initiatives. I do intend to be back before council for a Q1, Q2 review in the short coming weeks, whenever it is it's convenient to appear before council yet again, but this will just be a brief presentation for council, and I'll have more in-depth numbers for you and details come the next time I'm before council. In brief summary, our detachment initiatives have remained the same as what they were last year, focusing on our reduction of property crimes, that being break and enters, theft from motor vehicles, and theft of vehicles. That remains a persistent ongoing concern with our rural residents, particularly with regard to rural crime. Our second priority remains the focus on road safety, that being the reduction of overall reportable collisions and injury collisions. And third, our community engagement priority that relates more with how we interact with the public, making sure we're meeting with people where they are, our participation in community functions, and again, making sure that we're maintaining those strong community relationships in our detachment area. Just going through a bit of our Q1 and Q2 numbers that I've been reviewing most recently, and again, as I referred to, that report should be back before council quite in the near future. How we're doing this year to date. So the fiscal year to date from, and I know you're looking at January to September numbers, but just give you a bit more of a narrowed scope on our Q1, Q2 for this fiscal year. In Q1, when we look at break and enters for the county, we did see a bit of an increase up from 3 break and enters to 7. However, at our 5-year historical averages, in Q1 we did see a bit of an increase, but in Q2 we saw a reduction, where in Q2, which would have been July, August, September, we were down from 7 from the year before down to 2. And then from our historical averages for Q2, we saw a reduction from 9 down to 2. So we did see some significant reductions in Q2 versus Q1, where we had a bit of a peak. And you'll notice that in the numbers that you see with respect to total property crimes in January, in that Q4 or the end of Q4 and into Q1, we saw a bit of an increase of those crimes, but we did see corresponding reductions as we move through. What we're seeing is, yes, we are still seeing a number of these crimes being committed, I would say in Wheatland County, probably over 90% of them by those who don't live in our area. Those are the people who are traveling through, typically from the Calgary urban area that we're dealing with. We have been making a number of arrests and apprehensions of these offenders as they travel through our area. However, we are seeing some reductions, as we'll notice in other criminal code, with the arrests for breach of conditions charges. Those are typically the people that we're catching that are already at large on a number of different conditions, and as well with our habitual offender management program, we've seen either people move out of the program without having committed further crimes, or they're just simply leaving our area, which either way, as long as they're not negatively impacting our residents, I'm okay with that. When we look at theft of motor vehicles in Q1 for Wheatland County, and again, that's taking a snippet out of the numbers you see before you, we did see a bit of an increase. So there was an increase in Q1 from 2 to 5 from last year, but on historical averages remained at 5. In Q2, we saw a reduction from 4 vehicle thefts down to 2, from comparing to the same period last year, and again, unchanged at 5 when looking at our historical averages for the Q2 period. A lot of our vehicle thefts in the county area mainly are crimes of opportunity, so it's just a matter of informing our residents to ensure that their properties and their vehicles are secure. Theft from motor vehicles, we did see a significant reduction again in Q1 from 7 to 2 in Q1. A reduction from, again, it's a reduction from the year before, and from our historical averages down from 5 to 2. And in Q2, we saw another reduction down from 2 to 0 for theft from vehicles from the year before, and again from our historical average in Q2 from 5 to 0. Overall, with break and enters, when we're looking at crime trends, most of them, in fact, six of them were at unoccupied residences, 4 of which were at the same residence that's been left unoccupied for some period of time. We know that the area offenders, typically from Calgary, know that it's unoccupied. It's been a persisting area of concern that we've been working with the surviving family member that's in charge of the property to try and help to secure it as much as possible, but they just haven't had the opportunity to deal with the property. So it remains largely unoccupied. And it's known out there with these people in these groups that it is unoccupied and they keep persisting and returning to the property. So it's remaining an ongoing concern. I can tell you in two instances, in one instance, we were able to identify an offender by DNA. Unfortunately, the Toronto Prosecution Service declined to prosecute in that matter. On the second one, we found people on or a subject on the property, and we laid the appropriate charges and had them removed out of there. So hopefully they tell their friends that we're still out there. Arrests will be made and charges laid wherever appropriate. With our road safety, we do see, if we're looking at our January to September numbers, I can tell you in the county, there was an increase of our overall reportable collisions, but looking at the data that I have, our injury collisions are down. The increase of overall collisions in the county area is largely attributed to animal strikes. I can tell you less than 10 collisions that were reportable had to do with either intersection offenses, driving too quickly, and distracted driving. The rest of the collisions are attributed to animal strikes on the roadways. I'll repeat my comments. If I can figure out how to keep deer, coyotes and cows off the highways, I'm sure we'd be in better shape, but it just is what it is for our area. It's just a number that as long as we know what the contributing factors are for those statistics, then our residents are assured that these collisions are not as a result of dangerous roadways. It's just the nature of our geographical area. And again, with community engagement, we were heavily involved with our community partners throughout the summer. We had a lot of our members out in the county around the Stampede period of time with Rockyford and Standard and through some of the parades through there. So again, I'll have more detailed reporting for you for the Q1, Q2 report when it's ready and before council, which should be as soon as we can, depending on what council's schedule is. But essentially that is our state of affairs for the Strathmore portion of Rocky County to date. And again, I'm open to any questions or concerns that council might have.
Any questions for Staff Sergeant Wilgosh?
And I'm not sure if this is the proper place to address this, but how do we get you guys to prioritize events that are going? We had a rave in the community. On social media, they openly stated that they were going to be promoting hard drug use. And in my mind, I'm old, but in my mind, you guys are the guys that are able to stop that kind of stuff. Like, we understand that if we have lots of speeders, we do enforcement, it cuts the speeders down. And what I'm worried about is going forward, because this event will probably show up, rear its ugly head a year from now. And can we get this on the radar that you guys can sit down and say, yeah, we're going to have to put some manpower onto this, even if it's just walking through the deal. There has to be a police presence there, or this stuff will continue and get worse and get worse and get worse, right? So how do we go about sort of getting it on your radar? We want to prioritize your time for certain events, and we don't have many of these in the county. And we don't want to have many of these in the county. So, so how do we do this?
Well, I think there's a number of different avenues that can be pursued with that. For this particular event, this was the second year, I believe, at that same property that it occurred. I was in direct discussions with Chris Berman here, our CPO sergeant for the county, to plan and strategize around the event. We looked at a number of different avenues as far as law enforcement is concerned, or illegal footing. The land use was an area that I'm sure Sergeant Berman is able to speak more to, as well as any other applicable bylaws that may apply to special events that occur within county limits. In the absence of any proactive level of, legislation or authority to stop private events from happening, we take a look at, well, this is a private event that's occurring on a private property. As far as raves are concerned, I guess you can take a look at it. There's probably going to be drug use, but unfortunately, under the bounds of the law, we're unable to simply enter into private property or conduct searches with that low-level threshold. Our threshold under the law is much higher to ensure that if we're going to be detaining, searching, and infringing on a person's rights, we need to have a much higher level of certainty before we start engaging those type of law enforcement efforts. As far as I understand, there was roughly 200-ish, 150 people at the property. If I'm not mistaken, I do know that Sergeant Perman was there and overseeing the event as it was unfolding. I also understand that, as far as the organizers were concerned, that when the hours of the event were done for the day, that the music was turned down, but then again turned up again by those who were staying out there. And I also understand that appropriate follow-up with respect to the noise violations was issued. As far as directing our law enforcement resources, if this event should repeat itself, we can do check stops coming into the property itself, but we can't search vehicles just based on suspicion. We need to have more evidence in order to search vehicles for drugs. As far as alcohol is concerned, alcohol and marijuana are legal, so we're fairly restricted in that regard. As far as ensuring that these events don't occur in the county, I can say that if that is the county's desire not to have these types of events, then perhaps, I guess, thoughtful wording towards an applicable bylaw might be something in the cards to ensure that rave-type events or events such as this, depending on the wording, are not permitted within the county areas. I can tell you, working with Rocky View County, they have very robust wording with respect to their special events bylaws where raves don't happen in Rocky View County. And if there is indication that they are, then there's authority to approach the landowner or the organizers in advance in order to ensure that they're aware that it is not permitted and the appropriate charges will be laid if they continue along that path. And it has been fairly successful. I myself have not been out to one of these applications, but I can tell you Sergeant Salmon was, just prior to my arrival, went out with one of the Rocky View County officials to a property in their area where we caught wind that there was going to be a rave, and they were told under no uncertain terms that the event was not to happen. So going forward, what we can do is if in the absence of any other legislative tools, we can have a higher degree of presence. As far as entering into properties, we do need to have a common law reason to be there or purpose to be there, or if there's a call to be there in order to enter into people's properties. We can't, even though we're the police, we can't just openly walk into people's properties because we want to. But again, that's going to be, of course, the call of the members that are assigned to that area, what they see, what they hear, and what's reported to them at the time. Another thing to keep in mind is, if we have 2, 3, or 4 members that are walking through that area, they're certainly outnumbered if there's upwards of 100 people that are going to be on the property as well. So there are some strategic considerations to keep in mind as well. At times, yes, on that specific evening, again, we want to make sure that nobody's getting hurt. Of course, we're concerned with everyone's safety. We want to make sure our roads are safe. And if people are staying out there, we also want to make sure the people that are on the property are safe. But there are also remedies after the fact that can be issued. And as I understand, Sergeant Perman laid quite significant penalties on the appropriate people, which should serve as quite a significant deterrence. Again, it's an evolving situation. It's certainly open to much more discussion if this is a priority and a concern for the county areas, and I'm certainly open and welcome to further discussion, not only with our municipal enforcement partners, but with council as well.
Just to help understand better and building on Councillor Eichert's questions, I think some of what the concerns that were relayed to me involved social media postings that blatantly stated they would be doing testing on illegal substances for safety like fentanyl. I think that was specifically referenced in social media. And so what was conveyed to me through ratepayers, now the ratepayer concerns were expressed after the fact, so then you couldn't be responsive. But the question posed to me was, why would you not be aware of that? I said you were in communication with our peace officers. We were addressing it through our own bylaws internally, but why there wouldn't be sort of a mitigation of that if they clearly feel comfortable posting that. I could see it publicly on Facebook. And if we're enabling that kind of illegal acts within our county, so I guess just understanding a little bit more, if I had been able to communicate that to you in advance, would that meet that threshold, or would that not be? I just need to understand a little bit more about that element of it. And then I have one more question after.
Sure. And I suppose every situation is different, and I used to not liking to hear this when I'd asked for specific examples myself, but it depends. Depends on the nature of the post, how recent the post is. Are they posting as they're on their way to the event itself? That gives us some recency. And particularly if we see anything on the social media post, or if it's a a live video posting that they're on their way and they have these things with them, then that gives us a more authority to stop the vehicle, effect a detention and potentially a search at that point in time. We just can't blanket search everybody for hard drugs. If people are boasting that things are going to happen, sometimes it's boastful, sometimes it's legitimate. In law enforcement, we need to be certain if we're going to be infringing on people's rights, if we're going to be stopping them, searching them, their persons and their vehicles. So in varying situations, it depends. We don't have the resources to always be watching social media. That's why we depend on those who happen to come across these posts. And we can have an opportunity to, I guess, take a look at the circumstances and determine what, if anything, can be done. But again, it depends on the scenario in which, we find this information. And again, in the example where it's clear that the person has them in their possession, it's being live broadcast within a short period of time of the venue or where we happen to find them. And yes, in those circumstances, we could search the vehicle and move a little bit further as far as our lawful authorities are concerned. But just word on the street, so to speak, word on the street that there's going to be drugs there. Okay, it enters onto our radar, but again, we need to be careful depending on the circumstances as far as how we choose to affect law enforcement activities. Again, we need to make sure we have the proper and lawful authorities to be searching and seizing items from people.
Thank you. That is helpful for sure. My second question, I'm concerned with our justice system, and I use that term loosely, the fact that you did your work and were able to make an arrest on one of those break and enters, and then you said the Crown prosecutor declined to prosecute. Can you expand on that? And if there's anything that we can do specifically to advocate for improvements around that, because that's incredibly frustrating, and I can't imagine how incredibly frustrating it would be for you as law enforcement to actually be doing your job well, and then for that to be thwarted within the judicial system.
In the particular matter where we found DNA, it was from a cigarette butt that was found on the scene. I think it just with that sole source of evidence that the prosecution may have seen that the likelihood of a conviction may have been lower, with any number of different alternate explanations for why that cigarette butt may have been at the property. What I can say that is difficult is when we're dealing with the same people time and time again. I've sent out media releases over the couple of years since I've been here in Strathmore, where our members have encountered people in stolen vehicles, and these people or individuals are already at large on several other different matters on a number of different other release documents. And we're catching them yet again with double-digit numbers of new charges, where we try to hold them and remand them into custody, and eventually they find themselves back out on the street and again back resuming their criminal activity. That's one of the focuses of why we have a habitual offender management program for those who we are aware of that are in our community, to ensure that they're not causing the greatest amount of harm to our residents, whether it be through property crimes or otherwise. So that one thing is very difficult. I think it's being heard. I was just in discussions with our newly elected MLA as well on this topic. It would be helpful to ensure that those who are the most impactful towards our society and our residents are dealt with some level of priority to ensure that they are facing adequate repercussions for their actions. And I think that's the most impactful point that we can start with. Again, we deal with 10% of the population that causes over 70-80% of the problems and the crimes within our residents. I think there needs to be some more innovative solutions and a little more attention towards that. That would be most helpful for my members in law enforcement and the members of my detachment when they're conducting investigations. Again, trying time and time again to ensure that those who are causing harm are held accountable. Regardless, our members will continue their activities, no matter how many times they're encountering the same individuals or who we do encounter. One of our strategies, again, with our habitual offender management program and pushing forward with successful arrests, charges, and prosecutions, is we do want to set the reputation for our area, that Strathmore detachment area, and I'm sure all of my colleagues are working towards the same, is a safe area. And if you're coming here to do harm, or if you're up to no good, then there will be a higher likelihood that you'll be detected and apprehended. And that's the message that we're trying to instill. This is a safe community, and our members are on the road watching. And again, I do have to, if I may, take a moment to again, express my thanks to council for the contributions already made with our Watch Clerk program, which helps our members remain on the road and to spend that time out in our communities and out in our rural areas to place them it's a better place than to detect, deter, and prevent crime.
Well, I can safely say on behalf of council, we appreciate your work to keep our community safe. And I know it's not an easy job, but it is appreciated. So, and we appreciate the data that you bring to us and the metrics. I am mindful all the time. I think you guys take a lot of responsibility for the metrics, and I recognize that you do have mechanisms and strategies that you can implement to try and influence this, but I also know criminals are going to criminal, and that's outside of our control. But I think the stronger our policing and our enforcement is in Wheatland County, hopefully the better we can deter them from choosing to criminal here. So we do appreciate that work, and we do appreciate the data and all of the strategies that you're putting in place. And habitual offenders for sure are unequivocally a challenge and are going to continue to be that. But I think the strategy you have in place is effective, and it's clearly effective when you lay out the detail to which you attend to that with. So thank you. Any other questions for Strathmore? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We also have the detachment commander from Gleason RCMP joining us this afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, Your Worship. Thank you for having me. So, I'm not sure if our stats are up, but if some of you have, I'll just start off here at the beginning. Once the stats are up here, we'll look at some of the numbers and see what we're doing. But for community consultation, within Wheatland County.
Can you just introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. I probably should have done that already. Staff Sergeant Dean Perka. I'm with the commander in Gleason. So, sorry about that, Councillor. To talk a little bit about the community consultation, we've been upping our efforts here this summer. We've been doing a bit more with the in the communities of outlying or outside of Gleason, including Standard, Clooney, a few other areas there as well. Going to small events, even just ice cream in the park, or visiting with the local fire departments right up until, sorry, I couldn't make it to Gunner's rodeo there this year, but went to, I think, Bolorama and a few others events in the area. So if we look at the Wheatland County crime statistics, I brought two, and one for the county and one for the town of Gleason as well. Well, most numbers are pretty standard here. The one number that does blow up in our face here are assaults within the county. We're looking at 15 so far year to date. And when we compare those to 2000, 2001, from 2000, we're looking at a 400% increase. I mean, we are mindful that that was COVID era. However, we do see that assaults in the county have gone up. We did a little bit of investigating into that, found out that we actually only had 8 assaults or 8 files. But when we talk about, we include our victim numbers in there as well. So there was times where there was 3 victims involved, and sometimes it's a domestic, not necessarily domestic, but even a family fight that's gone, has a few injured bodies in there. Nonetheless, that number has gone up. It also includes assaults on police officers. We did have 2 of those this year within the Wheatland County, just on traffic stops. One of them that results in an injury to one of our members. So broken leg, just kind of incidental to everything. So he was off for a while. So we are keeping an eye on these assaults, especially the ones that are tied to addresses within the county. That's really the biggest one there for us this year, and also the property crime. We are seeing a small uptick, I'd say, in break-and enters. Mostly those 2 oil field sites or any sites like that. As far as the break-and enters go, actually, since Mark's in the room, I'll thank him. We were responding to a break and enter here last month when one of our members got involved or was involved in a serious motor vehicle collision, and the members from Strathmore raced out there not only to help us with our member, but to go to the break and enter where they arrested somebody. So I'll thank him since he was in the room. So, and just goes to show the partnership here. between our two detachments. If we scroll down, we can go into, that's still Wheatland. So fatal collisions, we did have one major fatal collision here. Actually, just a little bit back up to that last page, please. For collisions, our collisions are still, oddly enough, relatively low. Most of these are single vehicle collisions, weather related. Very few two vehicle collisions. Unfortunately, one of them was our fatality this year with the young girl. And it was weather related. However, I mean, we know that there's fog in the highway, so and even getting out there in the foggy times isn't safe for anybody to be out on the road. Less so for us. So, but we will be paying attention to that, looking at any dangerous driving or any activities that would cause collisions. So our ticket numbers are pretty consistent with years past out on the highway. However, we're looking to up those as well. Some of that will come with training. We do have a lot of new members in Gleason who still require some specific training towards traffic offenses, mainly speed enforcement, but our goal is to get our members out on the road more. And for the next one, the Gleason detachment, which will be the next page, please. Assaults in that are up 27%. However, we looked into the numbers on those. We can drop that number by 10% right away. We did have some miscoding on it, and I didn't catch that until today when I started looking at the numbers. Assaults that were reported at our detachment were somehow scored as happening in our detachment. We're not that violent in our office, so we've corrected those. So yeah, it seemed like the front counter was a hot spot for some reason. So we reduced those numbers there as well. We are working with our Crown when we talk about some of our habitual offenders and our relationship with the Crown Prosecutor and Justice. We do have not just habitual offenders, but some very serious offenders as far as the domestic violence goes, who live in the town of Gleason. And we're working with what we call our ITRAC. It's our threat assessment unit, who've come back to us with a specific threat assessment, call them high-risk offenders, and working with the Crown. Quite often in domestic situations, we see victims refusing to come forward. And in one specific offender and victim and address, the Crown has stopped asking for victim testimony in this case, and just going off police testimony and photos and everything else that we can use to address this one offender. We know it's only going to end poorly for us, for everybody, in this specific case. So we're doing what we can to work with the Crown to get the successful prosecutions on them and separate these people and move this person out of our town, if even just to remand, jail, whatever. So yeah, it was one of those zero tolerance on this person as well. So if we even catch a whiff of it, the person's being arrested, and it's not even a question of whether or not they're going to go to remand for a while. But that's as far as we can go. But the Crown is on board and working quite well with us. So. I think most of the other stats kind of speak for themselves. The schools in the area, we finally have liaisons assigned to all of them, so there are going to be a lot more school visits. The school visits will be happening mostly in November, only because we didn't get our liaisons assigned right away. We were waiting until we had our safe plans in place and sending members to those schools. They'll be liaising with or speaking with staff and students there. Talking about the town of Gleason, we met with the board of directors a couple of times over the once in the beginning of the summer, once actually just yesterday, expressing his concerns about the downtown district in Gleason. Our stance right now has been what we call basically our model. We're acquiring, analyzing information. We're at a point now where we're organizing a response, and I've already been reaching out. We'll be reaching out to our partners here, and that'll be within the Wheatland County here with the peace officers, seeing what we can do to address some of their concerns, formulate a response, and assess how it goes, right, and make changes as we need to. So When we talk about some of the assaults that have happened in the town of Gleason, we're talking about a very small section most of the time in Gleason. It's just the central business district. So when I talk about our resource level, even though while we show only one vacancy on paper, we are working with a bit of a reduced staff. We just have that one who is off duty because of that serious collision that they had happen on Highway 1. Another one on light duties, but is due to be back to full duties here November 1st. Another one on restricted duties. Another 2 on administrative duties. So out of 16 constables, we're down 6 right now. But good news, we do have 3 more coming. Last one just got their transfer papers this morning, and just moving from Brooks. So knows the area, really likes the area, likes coming to Gleason. So we're looking forward to having him. And one from Lloydminster, and another one from, sorry, not Lloyd, Vegreville, and another one from Fort Mac. So we'll have those, we should have them all in place within the next 6 weeks, we hope. I'll open it up to questions quickly, and then I just have a quick message to put out after that. So,
any questions?
I had a question. So in Gleason, we just recently had a development permit application to extend the operating hours of a cannabis store on Main Street. And it had been circulated and we didn't have any comments from our CMP. How is that going? Is it, the owners would assure us that things are lovely and there's no trouble, but I'm curious if you have to go there for any purposes.
no, we haven't received any calls for service at the cannabis store.
Good.
So
And outside loitering and things like that?
that's part of that acquiring of the some of the issues that the board of directors brought to us, whether it be the loitering, the littering, the garbage, things like that, right? So that's all part of that that acquiring that we're going to be forming a response for. So.
And one more, just I'm curious what the status is of the Siksika police. Are they fully operational, or where's that at?
No, they're not. They do have one building, public safety building, put up there in the just south of Clooney, on the nation. But no, as far as the Siksika police, they're still moving forward. They still have our support. They have just recently, as recently as today, they've asked for some of our stats over the last 5 years. That I'll be preparing for them to for their reporting up to the DLE, the Director of Law Enforcement. So
To anticipate what they will be looking to do, is that what you mean?
I believe
Like their
so.
stats?
I mean, that'll be up to why they need the report. I'm not sure, but we're the ones that hold all those stats, so we're going to be the ones that supply them. Okay. I mean, you're probably correct in your assumption why they would need that report, just to see what they would be anticipating.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Again, just reiterate the thanks. We appreciate the service, and my heartfelt sympathy for the 2 officers that were assaulted in the traffic stops. That's unimaginable and completely unacceptable. And I know people ask me why I do what I do. I think I cannot imagine the commitment that it takes from our officers to put themselves in that risk to try and maintain safety in our community. So please pass along our thanks for all of your officers. I guess the only concern that I would highlight, and I know we've talked about it before, is just around responsiveness and ensuring that there's follow-up with concerns and calls that are made to the RCMP. It's something that we've certainly brought to K Division and tried to highlight with each of our detachment commanders as well. And I know some of that is beyond your control, but we do appreciate the focus when detachment commanders have, strong expectations around follow-up for complaints. It goes a long ways in terms of public's perception of policing and just the responsiveness to their concerns. And I have just been getting, and it's maybe reflected in the statistics a little bit, just some increased concerns around rural crime, suspicious people and theft, that kind of thing. And obviously, I'm hearing the same concerns that you're hearing about in the hamlet of Gleason, just around some of the concerns, particularly, as you said, on Main Street. And just the public safety elements of that. And I'd be interested in just being included in any conversations if there's things that we can do and how we're collaborating to approach that, because I know it is concerning for our ratepayers. And yeah, I've certainly the number of concerns that are coming to me has been increasing, and I think I was expecting that as we kind of came out of the COVID restrictions and things like that. But it is concerning, and anything that can be done is appreciated just to address those concerns in the hamlet. Yeah. So, thank you.
No, thanks for those kind words. I will pass those on. Your condolences to the members, families, and yes, we'll take a look into the suspicious persons, timely response issues, and just want to take this opportunity to, to explore any of those concerns, not even just here. I think it's been close to 8 months since I've been here, so certainly too long. I can show up more, and my phone, I've always got it with me, so feel free to contact me at any time. So yeah, I share your concerns. I share all the concerns that you guys have, and whatever we can identify, and we can work towards a solution on them.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps a motion to accept the presentations for information.
I will make that motion.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And if we could just break perhaps for 10 minutes and reconvene at 2:35, according to my computer. We'll call the meeting back to order. We will return to agenda item 2.43, utility rate strategy. And we were sort of mid-conversation. So council's wishes.
No, I don't mind.
We'll go to Councillor Bigger.
So I still want to look at that debenture for Carson and Speargrass on the wastewater to see if, I don't know if you need a motion for that, to until Muirfield gets their wastewater figured out, that they help pay for that debenture. Don't know what you need.
Just a question, would that be something you would want to take to your town hall, like in the spring if you're planning one again, or do you have a good read?
So my biggest complaint in my area is the water bills and the wastewater bills. I have had a few complaints that Muirfield is using our lagoons, mostly from when it's let go. So I think this would help with anything going forward in the community. I don't know if they don't, like some of these, this is kind of confusing. Actually, this is probably the best I've had it laid out. But to bring it to a town hall, you want to see everybody show up. Yeah, that would be it. Because of the price of the water bills. Now, I'm not sure if we had we agreed, had a question too, had we agreed on 15% until?
I think that, I don't think so. I think we said we would do it for 3 years, or we just did do it consistently for 3 years. I can't remember if the original motion was.
No, I don't think so.
But we had just had a discussion. And then, but that was previous council. So we would, we need to give direction now in terms of a path forward. We may want to contemplate just this year with some sort of, I did hear consensus around the table, and it sounded like strong consensus that everybody wants to get at least closer to full cost recovery, if not to some sort of set target. because this year is a unique year in terms of there are factors outside of our control in terms of labor and availability of specialized labor, just market considerations that are putting some pressure on this. I don't know if that will correct, and I don't know if there are any opportunities to find efficiencies or to, that needs to be explored. But I think we recognize we need to do something so we don't get further, or at least my position is I would like to see us do something so we don't get further away from cost recovery for this year, recognizing the fiscal pressures on everybody, and mindful of all the conversation that's happened so far. In terms of yours, I think that could be a motion of council to apply. Can you apply a debenture to another? Can you speak to that?
I think that council should direct administration to at least look into it.
Okay.
Part of the conversation that we're having right now, just in admin, as this conversation is ongoing, is that we're not entirely sure if the lagoon, if there's still a debenture on the lagoon or not, but it's something that administration needs to explore and give council some further information after we find out the facts.
So Councillor Bigger, perhaps a motion directing administration to bring a report back or some information back.
So I'll move that staff bring back to council some more information on the debenture for Carson Speargrass and bring it back to council for consideration of sharing that expenses with Muirfield.
Would you consider adding some information about Muirfield, where we're at for the funding and build a lagoon? Because
In terms of a timeline for wastewater servicing
Yeah.
strategy.
Sure. Thank you.
And when you do this mathematical calculation, I'm in my mind going, it can't be very much money. Like, because you're sort of renting something that is renting use of something that is already on a devaluating scale. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the debenture? Do you happen to know what the debenture for?
He doesn't know what it's, I guess you guys don't know what it's for and you don't know how long it is, but.
I think Councillor Bigger's like
Trying to
just
get it
looking
paid
at
for
the
faster.
potential impact. Yeah.
Long term. Like at least it's what is probably it's probably $9,000 a year that's coming off it through Muirfield.
But that's not going to make, you're not even going to see that difference in your bill. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Well, our bills don't change, but I mean, lengthwise, if they don't get a water service for another 3 years, then that's 18,000 or 20-some thousand. Or, see what I'm saying? I don't.
Spread it over 500 ratepayers over 12 months. You're not going to see the difference. Don't be disappointed. Yeah, I'm all for getting the information out there and finding out where we're at with all of this stuff. And yeah.
I think it's a valid question because it is the one place where we do see a difference in bills. And I think your point that they're utilizing that infrastructure. Like I totally see where you're coming from. The scale of it, agreed, it may not be hugely substantive, but if it does help and if it does, particularly if future conversations move into that, cost recovery on a individual hamlet scale or something like that, it could be significant at that time. But the more information we have, the better. I will echo, I forget if it was I think Councillor Bigger just said it, but this was the most fulsome, easy to understand. Every question I had, I just kept scrolling and it got answered as we went through it. So thank you for the fulsome RFD. I think it gave us really good grounds for considering this. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I believe staff were having some discussions during the break about the separate water rate. I overheard something, so they may have, I think they have something to tell us.
Okay. That my idea is ludicrous and there's no rationale for it. And
I did not hear anything. I just heard discussion and I think they want to.
Through the chair, administration was just having a conversation regarding the current philosophy about water and wastewater usage and how we handle that in the county. And the information I'll share is that is relevant, I guess, at this point is that currently with our billing structure and our billing programs, we use a philosophy that of all the water that is used by a resident or a ratepayer or utility payer, 70% of that water goes into the sewer system. That's based on historical reviews of usage during the summer, during the spring, during the winter, different percentages, and we kind of use an average. That percentage is put through as the rate differential. So currently, if you look at the water rates on the screen, $2.55 for water, $1.79 for wastewater. That $1.79 is 70% of the water rate. So when you see a utility bill, or when our utility user sees a utility bill, it would show, I think the example we used on here was 14 cubes of water used. It will also show 14 cubes of sewer charged. The differential is in the dollar amount. So it was just something we wanted to inform council of. If you change one of the rates and not the other, then it changes that kind of percentage. And we just want to make you aware. I'll also note that with our current programming, it would be, there would need some work would need to be done in order to switch it so that we could adjust those rates differently. I hope that helps explain our conversations during the break.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. I may have a way to mitigate it, but maybe not. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
We have a motion.
Well, yes, we have Donna's motion we haven't dealt with yet.
I'm just wondering, and I haven't played with it, but if you change that ratio, like do you enter the percentage into the billing program? Is that how you do it?
Through the chair, or I guess you are the chair. I don't say through the chair, do you? Sorry, so our billing program doesn't allow us to enter the percentage, and that's why we adjusted the rate accordingly. It was the only way that we could still have our 1,000+ utility bills that get read every month automatically go through a billing process. If we wanted to adjust, say, a cubic meter usage or a percentage, we'd have to do that manually to each utility user. And so that is why currently we use the rates as that differential.
Now, just so that I'm understanding, if we did say I might not be pulling the right number, but say the 255, if we applied the 15% to that, that's doable in a streamlined manner.
Yes. It would just throw off the
ratio.
The ratio that we use.
Right.
So we just wanted to inform.
Like the philosophy behind it would be disrupted.
Correct. That's what we wanted to do. That's what we were discussing outside of the table as that conversation was being had, just to make you aware. It doesn't mean we can't, of course, look at how we can manage that with our systems. It just means it is something that we can't do automatically. And just wanted to highlight that.
So are people opposed to having Clooney taken out of this analysis overall? Just curious around the table.
For me right now, I think we stay the course. Get some more information. That's just me.
So if we did 15%, Clooney would be at 25% subsidized. I wouldn't want to go lower than that until we have a decision about, yeah. So next year we would have to look at that and say, are we going less than 25% given everybody else is at 60 or 71 or, yeah.
Gleason is 43, like
Yeah.
closer.
No.
There's definitely disproportionate. I guess one consideration just in terms of like economic impact to the person because they only have that smaller subset, but then their service level is completely different. So
100%. Yeah.
would it work, just given the timeliness of things, to leave it as is for this year and then task administration with trying to come up with some kind of mechanism to address Clooney that would work within the confines or the constraints of our billing system, but that would still help to mitigate that disparity.
You say as is, you mean 15%?
Well, we don't have a motion.
No, I know, but that's what we're contemplating. And like, I would be okay with it this year, but then I would want to look at it further to see how we can get our subsidization rates closer.
Yeah.
I have an idea for a motion, but we got to deal with Donna's first.
Right.
Is there any further discussion on the direction for administration to bring some information back about the debenture and Muirfield's use of Carsland Speargrass Lagoon? If not, I'll call a question. Motion is carried.
In the interest of stability for staff, so they got some time, I was thinking to do 7% over the next 3 years. Gives us 2 years. Or say, yeah, 7% this year, 7% next year, and that's 14%. Let's just do 2 years. I can make that a motion, and then that gives us time to digest some of these processes while still funding. We're still shortfall at that point. And then it's not so hard. And yes, it's going to put us a little further behind the 8 ball, but it gives some consistency, and you want some notification for public as well. That gives that. And I think that's more than fair.
Are you making a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we increase the rates 7% for 2024 and 7% for 2025.
So just for clarity, would it be February 1st, 2024, and then January
1st, 2025?
2025?
Yep.
Does that work for administration? And then we could include that in our communication strategy.
I'd like to do 3 years, but I think 2, that puts us at 21%. That's a little much, so.
And if inflation keeps, like, if we're never getting, like, we could be falling further and further behind if we do it too far in advance, I think. Like, we are going to fall behind as it is.
I think everybody realizes in the room that we are subsidizing this. It's what the comfort level, well, like we kind of dealt with it previous council, and I think we got to deal with it in the new councilors here.
We did make strides. Like I think when we were,
made big
when
strides.
some of us were elected in 2017, I want to say our water rate was $1.55. Is that? So we did do significant increases over that time frame. Now there were significant increases in costs as well.
And a ton of changes too.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, there is a motion on the floor. Any further questions or discussion?
Oh, just for council to consider, perhaps after the master schedule of fees, potentially just a bylaw would just
yes.
add in that bylaw, that last word, and we should be good to go.
I will accept that change. Do you want me to reread it?
I think it's long as a contextual edits in there and council can vote on it.
So it would just, the end would be an update the master schedule of fees bylaw.
That has to come back to council though too, right? Yeah.
Any further questions or discussion? I do support the motion. I would like to see us moving towards cost recovery a little bit faster, but I also recognize there are a significant number of factors just affecting our ratepayers right now. Councillor Bigger spoke well to just some of the pressures with other utility rates that are impacting folks. And for some people, this is not a significant impact, but for some of our ratepayers, it is a significant impact. And I am mindful of that too. So I will support the motion with the understanding that our administration are constantly looking for efficiencies as well and trying to bring those costs down in whatever creative ways might be available to do so.
We could look at all, whatever everybody pays in late tax fees and put that straight onto there, and it would probably be a subsidy right there.
That's just kind of a shell game though.
But it's not income that you're not accounting for. And it is quite a bit of money over the year.
We do estimate penalties in our budget. We do account for that.
Yes, so the revenue on penalties are budgeted for it as an estimate, of course, but we do budget for it.
Councillor Priest.
I just had a question about that. The utility operators, is that there's just nobody around who is qualified, or nobody around who wants to come here, or what's going on?
Through the chair, I can't comment on if anybody wants to come here, but what I can comment on is we've advertised a utility operator position 3 times in the last 18 months. And we require a level 2, just to put it in perspective, we require a level 2 certified operator for water in our wastewater facilities. And we had a total of 0 applicants with that qualification apply. So the reasoning behind it, not 100% sure, but during, as commented in the report, or as mentioned in the report, just this past year, we did run into a situation where we had to go to contracted services for all of our operational needs. We are looking to continue that based on the success we've had with it. It comes with the additional cost as mentioned in the report, but we are looking to continue that and are expecting to do a tender for those services next year.
So is there a program about, do you know, like, is this a state program that somebody can take to become an operator too? Or how hard is it to become a?
Through the chair, the program that I'm aware of is through NATE, is the one I'm aware of. It does take not only that program, but you also have to have a combination of operational hours as well as some certification during your time to move up the different levels. It does take, I believe when we looked at moving somebody from a level 1 to a level 2, it took almost a year to get to make that change. But it's based on hours and I can't remember what it's called, continuing education credits, I believe. Thank you.
Firsthand experience, I've been asked to go back in the industry because I've done it before. When I did it 15 years ago, it wasn't as near as hard to get into it as now. I redid the tests, and I'll tell you what, it is not easy. It is very discouraging, and I actually talked to the enrollment officer at Alberta government, and I said, there's a shortage of operators in Alberta right now, and it's Western Canada too. There's a lot of attrition going on, a lot of people retiring, and there's just not people to fill it. So it's interesting because I'm going to take the level 1 tests again, and they want to know what my opinion is of it, is because I've had the history from before, because I told them, I said, it's really hard and it shouldn't be that way for entry level people to get in. You learn more in the field than you do. But there's a lot to it. I can talk to you more offline about it, but they made it really hard, and now when they need people, they can't get them through there because it's very discouraging.
If you're aware of any advocacy that we can do in this area, just because it does impact municipalities so much, or if council wants to initiate something, if Deputy Reeve Clausen feels like he might be in a conflict of interest or a position of bias, council could consider some kind of resolution, whether it's around the standards for entry or the stringency of testing, or even just highlighting the opportunities for folks to go into this area.
Or is it costly?
Not overly. The DRC, this direct responsible control, like it's not, some people can go to NATE and they can come out and they have book training, but they don't have the field training. There's 2 different ways. It's like an apprenticeship, but it's not. I could explain it better probably off of this, but it's not as easy as it should be for entry level people to get in. And then once you're in there, if you want to stay in there, because level 1 is pretty basic, so it'd make it easier. There is some stuff out there, but I'll talk to you guys offline.
Any other questions or discussion on the motion regarding the rates? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 2.45, or sorry, 2.44.
Bryce is a lot taller than I am. Good afternoon, Joel again from Financial Services. Just to go over briefly the Q3 2023 county in-kind donations update. So what we've included for this period is a as just the same as the last. It's a table that includes a list of receiving organizations and events and an estimated value of contributions with some description on what was contributed for each of those events. The total for the quarter is around $16,000. Staff are available for any questions.
Any questions regarding the update?
No question, just comment. I appreciate this information. It's kind of sad on one hand that we have to evaluate this, but it's good when we are negotiating with our partners for things that we share, because at least we can keep track of what we're doing for different places. And when they come back to us, we can say, well, did you realize we're doing this? So I'm really happy to have this. And I'll make the motion to accept it as information.
Any questions or discussion? I would echo Deputy Reeve Clausen's comments. I appreciated the report, and I think it is just good to document. It's a tangible demonstration of the partnering that we do in the region and ways that we can work together and facilitate success across the region. Any other questions or comments or discussion?
I had a really quick question about the insurance. Who's the contact person for that, for nonprofits that are going through the insurance?
General Manager Putel.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Now we'll move to 2.45.
Joel again. This next report item is a request for cancellation of tax penalty by Nutrien. So a letter was received from Nutrien and was sent to council and administration to request cancellation of late fees and penalties on their property taxes, which were paid late in 2023. The total request represents $130,696.03 across 18 tax rolls. Staff are available for any questions.
Council's wishes.
I'm on a roll here. Although I feel bad, I'll make the motion that council deny the request from Nutrien Canada Holdings ULC to cancel the 2023 tax penalty for various tax rolls. My reason behind this is I've been consistent with this. I do feel for them that there may have been a mistake. However, I don't think the mistake was made on our end.
Any other questions or discussion? And I would support the motion and agree that we do need to be consistent. I think we want to be mindful that we're applying our tax bylaw fairly. The MGA does have a provision for cancellation, but the section says if a council considers it equitable to do so. And I think that really directs us to be consistent. And it is unfortunate. I don't think that there was any ill intent or intention to not pay on time. That's clear. But this is the type of thing where I could anticipate if we were inconsistent or started to make concessions like this, it could be weaponized. If you were a CFO for an organization, it would make sense to send it to the wrong. And I'm not suggesting this is what happened in this instance, but financially it would make sense to misdirect it and save, let us bankroll industries or taxpayers. And I'm not suggesting that's happening, but where there have not been provisions in place for strong tax collection, it has been weaponized by some sectors of industry. And I don't want to set a precedent where that could happen. We do have the TIPS program, and I think administration has shared that with this particular ratepayer, and there's an opportunity for them to enter into that to help mitigate this risk in the future. Any other questions or discussion?
As much as, it's, looking at it on the surface, it's harsh, but rules are rules. We have to follow what we've done in the past. So I will support this.
Any other questions or comments? Call the question. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, my computer just died and I don't know, I won't be able to vote. Look, I just am trying to restart. Could somebody, yes? Okay, I can do that, thanks. I've got a power code and it's for some reason, I've been.
County equipment.
Coming off your pay.
Oh, it's coming, just taking a minute.
While we're waiting, interesting, in small claims court, if you're a business person and you go after somebody for extra over and above your interest rates, the judge will never give them that. They'll give you that on collections. They'll give you what you owe, like just the base amount. Say it's $500 and you charged $500 interest over 10 years and you went to court and tried to get it back. The judge will never give it to you. They'll give you your base amount only in small claims court. And I know several businesses that have gone through that. So interest rate, like interest accrued or whatever, yeah, they won't.
I'm all ready. Sorry about that.
Are you good?
Everybody's good. Yep.
Okay, I will call the question now.
Usually my computer lasts the whole meeting, but.
Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 2.46.
Good afternoon, Council. Dave from Administration. On page 99 of your agenda package, there's a report regarding the Alberta Conservation Association Legacy Island Partnership request. The ACA, the Alberta Conservation as a Society, is an organization that manages and conserves lands to protect and provide healthy habitat for wildlife across Alberta. The report and attachments provide background information around the ACA and the request. The ACA is currently in the process of taking over a recreational lease on Legacy Island, held by the Bow River chapter of Trout Unlimited. And plans are to manage and maintain the boat launch parking area and access road on the island. However, Township Road 214A is not within the boundary of the lease agreement, and the ACA is unclear of how to address the maintenance of the road and the ford leading to the island. To address the access issue, the ACA has reached out to Wheeling County to request exploring a partnership to maintain the road and ford in a safe condition to ensure and improve public access to the Bow River in that location. Page 103 and 105 are maps of the area, and 107 provides a little bit of the mandate and roles of the ACA for council's reference. And the administration is seeking council direction to proceed with exploring the opportunities with the ACA to improve this recreational amenity, and then bring back that report, or if we can draft a letter of memorandum of understanding with them and for council's approval and consideration later on. And that concludes my report.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions regarding the report? If not, council's wishes.
Sorry, do we maintain the road now or do they?
I don't think anyone does.
No, we don't maintain the road, no. Partway, like to the top of the kind of hill.
So that road is very, very steep. And the ford is like up and down. And, you know, I just feel that if this is a conservation thing, we already have Johnson's Island and the bridge so we've both got both sides of the river to launch. And plus down further, or up further towards Calgary, there's another place to launch. I don't know why they're trying to develop this part. And I'm all for, I love tourism, but I just don't think, I just know that the people in the area are going to, with more traffic, it's just going to cause more problems. Like we've got plans for the RMO on Johnson's Island, and if we could concentrate on fixing that up and keeping that maintained rather than going with this legacy. It's not a very easy place to get into. It's steep. There's no, yeah, You have to cross a canal, like cross a river. I just don't see the few people that want to do it, go down there now is okay with me. I say we don't join it. It is conservation. Like, let's keep it natural. Let's not make it into another tourism attraction. I know it's against usually what I say, but I just know there's going to be a lot of complaints, and we already have this at Johnson's Island.
Would there be consideration just for administration to explore how much of the responsibility the AC, I don't want to get the acronym wrong, the Alberta Conservation Association would assume themselves versus municipal responsibility? I'm just envisioning there may just be like access or some kind of agreements, but maybe not us assuming the financial or the maintenance responsibilities ourselves. But totally hypothetical, but say there's where we just need to grant some sort of permission, but where they would be willing to assume the financial.
It's not only that though, it's the public that live there on the road and the problems.
Yeah, and you would understand that the best, unequivocally. I would defer to you because you would understand the situation far better than we would.
I mean, you can talk to them and find out what's happening. But if you think like Johnson's Island has a fairly rough road to go down, this is like 3 times as much of that. Anyway, I don't know what to.
Well, I will defer to the councillor in the area. So what's your motion?
I guess it would always have to come back to county to here. Like, we would not be saying, okay, let's, if you do that, we'll do this kind of thing. You're just going to go and say, what were your plans? And you'll express maybe thoughts about Johnson's Island instead of that, suggest that we already have Johnson's Island. Like, why would you need 2 places to go into the river? We've got actually 3. I don't know how to direct that.
We'll just eliminate it right now. Just say no. It's the easiest way. Maybe they'll come back with a better idea.
Well, the ACA is taking over this lease of this island, so they're just doing their, what they want to do is promote that or maintain it as a access point, and it is being used by sports fishermen as it is right now. So they were looking at exploring how to make a safer crossing at that ford more all year round. That was one of their was exploring that. They are also biologists and they were looking at partnering, like, that maybe we would do some of the work there and they would do some of the applications on the permits and those kind of things. Like, those are kind of the really preliminary discussions I had with them at this point before I brought it to council to get too far down that road. But they were looking at more, their priority was that crossing the ford. Basically, it was the main issue that they had at this point.
So I'd like to move that council.
Just before you say anything, can I interrupt?
Yep.
you? ACA should have actually, before they got to this point, should have talked to the local residents on the road and all that kind of stuff, whether or not this is a good idea. There's a reason why Ducks gave up that island. There's always a reason for something happening. And if they, it might very well be that a very minimalistic entrance point into this might be the best deal. But I mean, I'm not willing to, like, biologists or not, I'm not willing to disturb all the residents that are in the area just so that somebody thinks it's a great idea so that they can at dinner, they can award somebody a nice little trophy for doing this, right? And everybody in the area is not happy with it. We have got, I agree with Councillor Bigger that we have got other areas that we, the county, should be spending our resources at. And Johnson Island, I think, is a far superior one because I believe I've been down that road and that road's scary. So anyway, sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah. So I'll move that council direct administration to approach Alberta Conservation Association to let them know that the county is not interested in making this more of a public access than it already is, in consideration of the residents.
Could we potentially move in camera for just a brief moment?
Certainly. I will move us into closed session. All in favor? Motion is carried. So I'll call the question.
Mute off.
Motion is carried. So council has moved out of closed session. Councillor Bigger?
Yes, I'd like to withdraw my last motion and make another motion that council direct administration to explore establishing a partnership with Alberta Conservation Association concerning the Legacy Island at the Bow River.
Any questions or discussion regarding the motion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.1. We had two pieces of correspondence. Oh, my apologies. Lyalta Community Hall. Sorry, Deputy Reeve Clausen, my apologies.
Yes, thank you for letting me add this to the agenda. It just came to me yesterday. I've been in conversation with the group that's running Lyalta Community Hall, and they had asked me several times about snow removal. I said, I'm not the person that can make that decision. I said, you have to bring it to council. So I said, bring it here. We'll see what we can do. At this time, I'd just like to basically ask to have administration explore the possibility of this, what the cost would be, so we know. And if our outside staff have the capacity to do it. A little bit of the background, some of these halls, and I think Councilor Egger and I have talked about it a few times, there is some that the county owns because they've taken over because they couldn't afford to do it or there wasn't the manpower to do it. So these ones, I know if we don't support them, we could end up that way. So that's kind of the thinking I'm in. And if council doesn't support it, that's fine. But I just want to make a motion basically to research it and see what the costs are and if there's capacity to do such.
You're moving to direct administration?
I'll move it to direct administration to look into the possibility of snow removal at Lyalta Community Hall, capacity and costs for future consideration.
Excellent. Any questions or discussion? I support the motion and I appreciate getting the information. I agree with you. If there are ways within our capacity to support our community organizations, they do phenomenal work. And I think there's a lot of opportunity with some of the discussions happening with Lakes of Muirfield and the Lyalta community, and just significant potential for the future. So, and we have incredible community organizations throughout the county. And if there are ways that we can support them, I do appreciate doing so.
I believe Cars Land is owned. We own our own hall, and the county does snow removal in the winter for them.
So if we could include that information in these reports, because I honestly don't know. I've heard that before, but I don't know what we do, what we don't do, and why. That would be great. Yeah, for sure.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Now we'll move to correspondence. We had 2 pieces of correspondence. One from RCMP regarding the Alberta Police Funding Model resource allocation and the impact in Bazzano. And then a second from a ratepayer regarding traffic calming measures.
I believe that email was sent to all the counselors. It is sort of shocking to see the kind of speed that's going on, people going through the town, and it's whatever we do is going to cause some grief, because I think it's probably to the point that some sort of like speed bump thing would be the way to go. However, there's a lot of farmers hauling Super Bs down that, and it's going to be horrendous. So I am open to whatever's there, but those 4 videos that Braden attached to the to his email, and you watch guys driving down and running into people, and then watching people going through there at blistering rates of speed, and it's pretty confined in there. Like, there's a lot of kids in the area, and if the kids aren't paying attention to what's happening, so I don't know what to do, but we have to figure out something to do. I understand that once 240 gets, once we get 240 open for that half a mile or that quarter of a mile, then you can put, then I'd be 100% for putting speed bumps into there, because no farmer has to go through there. But there's a lot of farming activity in that area, and you have to access that area through Cheadle, because if you don't do that, you sort of have to access it off the Trans-Canada, and that's way more dangerous. So I'm open to whatever administration figures will work. You've got a sign up there, and it's great, and I guess it's wonderful to see see 82 as you go through that deal there, going 83 next time. I don't know, but it's a very short piece of, but it's what's that?
Do we have the ability to have cameras? Do we have that technology?
But I don't know what you do with them once you got them.
Tickets. Question about those signs. Do they store data on?
They do. So the ones installed, they monitor traffic with speed as well. So we're just collecting the data at this point. Staff Sergeant Perman is also aware of it as well. I believe he has it in his patrols, but I can confirm that. We sent it right away as soon as the email came in.
Yeah, and there's it's not a problem with, like, there's only so much we can do. Like, I know it's patrolled a lot, but when it's dark out, no one's, and there's in that one video or in 2 of those videos, it's the same vehicle, right? So, I mean, maybe the community residents have to just talk to the owner of that vehicle. I don't know, but.
A couple thoughts. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Well, when I read this and I looked at the videos, and yeah, there is, but in context, this is over 2 days. Probably there's over 100 vehicles a day there, I would imagine. So it's very small, but it is important. 2 of these could be taken out, because if that gentleman or that person driving that orange vehicle is going that fast, guaranteed he's going to court, and you'll probably lose your license in that zone. Like you're automatically, that's up there. The one person that hit another vehicle and they know it's a local farmer, they should have time, date, place, phone the RCMP, and they would charge them. Like, if you witness something like that, phone the RCMP, phone our bylaw officer. Like, we have the capabilities of doing it. They need to go sit in front of a judge, and the judge would say, why in the heck are you going that fast? And you're going to get this big ticket. And those fines are expensive. That's the process. But for someone to take video like this, are they phoning and complaining? Like, if you're going through this much effort, pick up the phone. Time, date, place.
I don't think you could be able to get a license plate off it.
Well, they can turn that orange vehicle. They know to keep an eye out for it. It's going to come back again. It's been there in 2 days. That, you know, it looks like they're working somewhere. But I mean, that's what we pay these bylaw and RCMP to do. And then if all else fails, I don't want speed bumps. I hate them.
A couple thoughts. I do echo your concerns around the impact of the speed bumps for the egg producers. I wouldn't mind seeing some data if those signs collect the speed of vehicles, just to see some data back to council on how prolific is the speeding. Is it isolated to, you know, a few individual vehicles going through, or is it, I mean, we're going to have to look at something if those were remarkable example, like concerning examples. My other thought was, and this did work in Jamaica, is we were having significant issues very similar to this with people just zero regard for speed coming through the hamlet. And you have kids, you have cyclists, you have whatever in the community. And our bylaw did kind of a focused enforcement period. And they have done that in other areas where significant concerns have been brought forward. They can really just do a very focused enforcement. I don't know if that would help, but if it was prioritized and some of the, you know, offenders were penalized monetarily or there were consequences, it may deter that behavior. But if it's more widespread, or if it's folks using it to go through and that kind of thing, that may not be as effective. But my preference would be to start there, get some data. If you were supportive, administration can direct a very focused enforcement. Could even be a longer term focused enforcement period. And it wasn't like every day at the same time. It was mixed up so that, you know, people couldn't necessarily predict when the enforcement was happening and that type of thing. But that's something to consider. Obviously, as the councillor of the area, we also like respect your concern and your focus on solutions. I just think we want to watch unintended consequences as well. So, thoughts?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to direct administration to target Cheadle for that for enforcement. And I'd also like to see the data on the, if whatever data can be shown on the speed on the on that those signs there, if we can get that data. So going forward, we might be able to figure out another solution, something else that'll help.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? And I think thank you to the ratepayer for bringing the concern forward, because it is very concerning. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And then perhaps a motion to accept the correspondence's information.
Also move.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And that brings us to the conclusion of our agenda. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.